Hello and welcome to the whatwasthatradio.com's YouTube channel, place, situation, cool hangout where you can learn anyway stuff. Whatwasthatradio.com is all about discovering modern rock. And there is a three-piece out of Los Angeles that have an innate ability to write thunderous flipping songs that deeply impact me through the lyrical sharing. Bexley are unbelievable. And it was such a thrill to speak with Amanda and Steve for what feels like an entire day. Do you have 2 or 3 hours free for a conversation with Bexley? Because that's what we're going to dive into right now. Thank you so much for being here. Please do consider a cheeky like, subscription, and follow or share or whatever you want to do with the social media and YouTube account of whatwasthatradio.com. I would really appreciate it. Here's a conversation with Bexley.
Working?
It seems to be working.
Oh, great. Hi.
How are you both?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. This is my wonderful partner Jodie's creation. She loves this is how every single conversation starts as well, because I have 2 cameras. I have like the broadcast camera for Twitch and OBS, etc. Then I have the Logitech that you're on, so you get the sort of lesser quality widescreen extravaganza of this 70s inspired room, which bodes quite well considering your inspirations. But we're not going to jump into a cheesy start of tell me about your favorite bands growing up. That's not how we're going to start. What I'm going to quickly do is just make sure that you're both looking good in my setup. So zoom, make your window a little bit bigger. There we are. Fabulous. Yeah. So firstly, Amanda and Steve, thank you so much for your time. This is flipping sweet.
Thanks for having us.
And I'm so intrigued by that little exchange on Instagram this morning with Brett Smith Daniels and the context. Yeah. This is actually a great way for us to get to know each other, because I feel like the last 3 or 4 chats have been saying the same thing almost verbatim to introduce myself. But I think it's key context in having a cool conversation. But Brett and I have known each other for 10 years. He actually moved to Vancouver Island on the west coast of Canada in and around the same time I did, nearly 11 years ago. He's about 7 or 8 years younger than me, but he had moved to just follow family that were traveling around and working and placements, and then he was gigging and still working on his music here and there. And I had moved here to chase broadcasting. I'd spent many years in England trying to get on the radio from I started making demos when I was 11, but that's not going to happen. You're not going to get a radio show when you're 13. And so I had moved here because half of my family are Canadian, and my grandmother had sadly passed away 13, 14 years ago. We had a get together in Toronto, and then I discovered this wealth of family that I'd never met, or at least hadn't seen since I was a kid at 10 years old for a family reunion. So I moved here, ended up getting into radio, then met Brett through radio because his band actually they went on Dragon's Den Canada.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. That's awesome.
And they struck a deal that ended up not being a deal that was more of a deal for the cameras and not after the cameras were put down. But it really helped Brett and propelled him a lot. And he's such a passionate soul. And he said, and now we'll throw to you two, that you guided him around NAMM or something, around the exhibit.
Yeah, we met him at NAMM, I don't know, a few years ago. Maybe the first or second time.
That was like 4 years ago, maybe. It's been a while. It was through a mutual friend of ours, but
he's lovely. We've had a great time with him. That was the only time we've met. We haven't seen him since then, I don't think. But we've always kept in touch on the internet.
Yeah, and we've been following the music and everything. The band's awesome, and he's awesome. So it's cool.
So when he said that you guys were showing him around, were you working there, or was it like just a label or a friend that was like, you should get to know and just mingle?
Yeah, we just had a mutual friend who I think they were talking about management or something at the time, and he had never been there before, and I had been there several times. I used to play in an act that would play NAMM every year, so I'd go down, see the stuff, play a show, and go get out of there. Amanda and I actually met at NAMM, which is a weird backward story through another mutual friend. So it's kind of just been this incremental machine of there's 1,000 booths here and tens of thousands of musicians. Why don't some of you get to know each other, kind of thing.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
he's a great guy.
It's a good way to meet some people, and then it's kind of overwhelming if you don't have a plan, I guess. So it was nice to have some people being like, I think you guys will get along. So
well, this opens up the next few questions then. So you were in the NAMM house band. How do you want to define that?
Oh no! So I was like, so at the time I was playing for an electric violinist who has a booth at NAMM, like being like, "Here's my electric violins that I make." His name's Mark Wood, and his violins are awesome. But he would also put on a show at NAMM every year to be like, "Hey, check this thing out. This is what we can do with it." So I'd go play in his band.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that then I mean, that's the thing for me, it'd be like a kid in a candy shop. You're surrounded by all this technology, all these next steps, and then sometimes it can be overbearing. So is that how you two bumped into each other? Did you both step away for some quiet, or were you looking for a potential collaborator and bandmate?
We met through our friend Robert Knight, who's like a photographer. He's a well-known photographer that shot like Zeppelin. Oh yeah, here you go. You can't see.
Oh yeah, there's a light. But it's the 3 series of Jimmy Page. He was on Zeppelin's first American tour. So he's like he's still got photos of everybody, but he's just got stories for days.
Yeah, he like kind of like scours the internet for like new talent or whatever, like guitar players and that sort of thing, and like wants to connect the younger generation with each other. So he thought Steve and I would get along well and collaborate well. So we met at NAMM.
Yeah.
This is going to be a fun conversation. There's so many things we can dive into and go left, right, and center.
Yeah.
So in which case, I mean, you were looking. You weren't necessarily, Amanda, looking to find a Steve or a guitar player. It was just.
No, yeah, I was kind of doing my own thing then. I had recently come down to LA to start working with producers and songwriters. I was like 18 and just like kind of dipping my toes in Los Angeles. So that was kind of my first experience going to NAMM and meeting everybody there. It was kind of just to meet new musicians, but more to expand like my network than to form a band. But yeah, I'm glad we met. It obviously worked.
It has, yeah. I mean, and we'll deep dive into that. I've only been to LA one time. One of my best friends who I lived with here when I first moved to Canada all those years ago, he's been down in LA and just killing it, doing live sound and live sound for TV, etc. And so I flew down to see him about 4 years ago when the Mars Volta got back together and they played the Hollywood Bowl. And I was like, I have to go to that. Like, that's
awesome.
And he's like, well, the first trip to LA, baby, come on down. And in that 4 or 5 days, I met a plethora, so many people. And for networking, yes, I mean, in terms of radio and trying to branch out and maybe connect with some people for that or for conversations like this, just any which way. I mean, I'm so enamored by music and constantly searching out. I think Robert and I have something in common, which is looking to constantly search for galvanizing, exciting new artists that are desperate to pierce through the system above them into that wonderful magical world of the 10 or 20 bands that get this unbelievable experience with life in their creation. And that's not anything negative there. That's just the reality of the many systems.
Yeah,
but,
it is.
So I found that, yes, I met all these people, but once I was out the bubble, it was you're dead, you're gone. And that's not to be too macabre, but how have you found, are you still in LA? How have you found those relationships to build? Do you feel there's substance to them, or do you feel that in turn it's also helped you grow from knowing that some things are fleeting and won't last?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of just dug our toes in here. We've been here for 6 years now.
Yeah.
Going on 7 years. And we kind of just, we would go to shows and meet people at shows.
You kind of see the same faces popping up a lot.
I saw on the playlist that you posted, Holy Wars, they're friends of ours.
Yeah.
And we met them honestly, I reached out to a lot of people on Instagram and they'd be like, yeah, I'm in LA, let's meet up. And I would just try to keep expanding that way.
Even
kind of
the Spotify thing too, like we kind of went like, all right, Spotify thinks we sound like
Holy
these bands.
Wars, Yonica, all those bands.
Oh, great bands.
Yeah, so we're like, we should try to be friends.
Yeah, so it's kind of the social media game, but we're all in LA, so you can meet up.
A lot of people have been really cool. Like, I don't know, everybody's kind of trying to do the same thing and it gets stuck in their own world. But it's been honestly the last like maybe year and a half, I think we've met a lot more people sort of more like-minded to us here.
Yeah, everybody took to the internet once COVID hit, and Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah.
I think when we all work together, it's better.
Yeah, that's what always fascinates me about the conversation in and around anything. Look, whether you're a shelf stacker, whether you're a musician, whether you're an actor, whatever it is, ego depicts that we all seem to feel that we just need to be belligerent. Just do it yourself. We don't need anyone else around us. We've got our crew. We've got the 5 or 6. And that blows my mind, because when you look back to how our society rose to be as advanced as it is, it was from something called teamwork. And that's not to say that that doesn't exist anymore, but it fascinates me, especially when you're in LA. I can understand to an extent. Look, I mean, it's, for me, that speaks to, I'm speaking from a place of where I was absolutely obsessed with being on the radio. And as I've grown up, I'm in my mid-30s now, I'm nearly 35. As I've grown up, I've realized that it's okay to have that infatuation. It's okay to have that lust, because it's propelling you to grow. But then I had such an incredible time where I used to work as at the Zone at 91.3 for 10 years, and it went amazingly. And it's not that I've got anything against radio that I leave to go and build an online station. It's that I just was yearning to give more, to grow more, and in turn do what I like more as an individual, which is support up and coming bands. Now, you've agreed to have this conversation with a station that is only in its 13th month. It's just me and some dear friends. My partner Jodie has been colossal, but she's at work right now, so she can't say hi, but says hi. And it's step by step, because I've spent the last year diving into, okay, how can I learn how to do Adobe Premiere Pro editing for promos? How can I do Photoshop work? How can I do this, that, and the other? And these are things that weren't held back from me, but I didn't feel I got the chance to keep giving back to the company. And so to get to my point from what you've inspired, Amanda, is that's the shame of the situation, and that you've got this collective of passionate people in radio that all wanted to do the same thing, but not everyone felt that they could, in my case, keep going, keep growing, keep offering more and more and more to help us all elevate. And that's what bums me out about. Sometimes you can have this sort of strange energy where one DJ across town is against the other, or this band won't help that band, even if they've worked with the same photographer and whatnot. And I don't know, I just think you're closing doors of opportunity to grow. Whether even if you don't have to like the person, but for me, I've compared myself so much to people in this last year and a half that I've realized, oh my God, I'm not doing this because I care about that orb of millions and millions anymore. I'm doing this because I care about myself.
Yeah, I mean,
well, I was gonna say that you've touched on basically where we've been living as well. I think pandemic-wise, sort of really put some light on it. Basically, like this whole last 2 years, we've been doing. I mean, the whole project's been pretty DIY, but this last 2 years has forced it even further in that direction. And like, I think building those relationships has helped, because like, even making the record, so that we just put out, we recorded the guitars and bass and vocals and stuff in our apartment. And then for the drums, I was like, hey, we're not gonna be able to get into a studio. This was like peak lockdown. Nobody's going anywhere. So I called a friend of mine who owns a backline company, and I was like, hey, you're not renting anything, obviously. Do you mind if I borrow some mics and some recording gear? He's like, yeah, take whatever you want. We're bored. Please just make something cool. So he gave us everything we needed to track drums at Tosh, the drummer's garage. So we recorded drums in the garage, did everything else from home. And then we're like, we need music videos. We don't have the budget to do a massive one. Let's talk to Holy Wars, see what they've been doing. And like,
they introduced us to our friend Jonathan. Who's in a really cool band called Vespera. And he is also very DIY minded. But he's like amazing with like filming.
Well, it gave a unique perspective from a drummer too, because every movement is going to some sort of a rhythm.
He's the drummer of Vespera.
Yeah, exactly. So it was, and then I took that and I learned Final Cut and I edited the videos at home. Like, so we've had the same sort of chain of like, just learn what you need to learn and be friends with people who know things you don't, and like try to help each other, which has been really cool. I think if every one person wins, we all win, which is pretty great, rather than just trying to do it all yourself and step on people.
It's difficult, hindsight mixed with the future of which we don't know until we live it. How do you feel that alteration of you going about recording the record impacted the record? Did you have a vision in mind that it didn't become because you had to take a sidestep?
To be totally honest, I never thought we were going to be in a studio. I thought we were going to do it from home anyway, because we haven't really worked in a studio as Bexley.
Yeah, not the Bexley thing hasn't.
Yeah, we have the setup at home. I mean, it would be amazing to be able to record vocals and drums and guitar and everything.
Yeah.
But
I think honestly, having the time to take your time and not be like, okay, we're paying by the hour, helps quite a lot, because we got pretty weird and experimental, like just seeing what we could come up with.
Some creative freedom.
Yeah, the only thing I was concerned about was drums. I was like, I really want to make sure the drums sound big, and I think we just got like one lucky that people.
Our mixer is incredible.
He made it massive.
Yeah.
But I think there was a lot of luck and a lot of just like, let's learn and take a risk. So that was cool. I don't know. I think overall, I think it sounds good. I have no complaints.
Yeah,
so.
We keep gesturing because we're in our studio.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
You can't see it, but it's all here.
Well, I think it's an outstanding record. And for me, what I found so exciting in the last 18, 24 months of rock and roll music is that more bands are doing it themselves. And that's not that they weren't before. I think there's a galvanized feel for, look, we don't need to worry about the quality. If we're happy with the song, we can fucking put it out. We haven't got to, it doesn't need to all sound so pristine and perfect. And that's why, for me, I mean, you mentioned Holy Wars and Yonica. They're two of the, I have played the shit out of those two bands the last year. I discovered them, Yonica a couple of years ago, Holy Wars about 12 months ago. You guys only about 3 months ago, and have just fallen head over heels with this record, and looking back at the last 3-5 years and the progression so far. So and like Kid Capici, when I spoke to them last week, and Calva Louise, okay, Fruit Fly, just the one Fruit Fly left after a summer of fun.
I love Calva Louise. I don't know, but I do love them. That's pretty cool.
They are we had such an incredible chat 2 weeks ago, and they're a band that, I mean, Jess is from Venezuela, Alizon is from France. Mm-hmm. They come to UK, and they were living on a budget of £10 a day, going from Airbnb to hostel to this to that, and traveling all around the UK for a year, making a record, touring the songs they were making to try them out. I mean, the DIY aspect, but I'm all for that, because I think it's like with Nirvana, right? There's a certain special anniversary right now of a record, Nevermind or something, coming up all these years later, just being very cynical and sarcastic. But that was, we make a big deal out of, oh my God, look at the sound that Butch got out of this drum kit in this abandoned studio. I mean, there's some major things at play for me. Speaking to your record, like, yes, okay, the drum kit's in the garage, and yes, your engineer's done a great job, but that's it right there. A, it's the energy of which the performance was done. And B, it's then how it's been just tweaked, but the record sounds colossal. And the guitar layering, you can hear the experimentation in it. I mean, it's like there's 15, 20 layers of some of the cool little bits you do in the end of the songs, but you can feel the emotion in them. So I live for that. I love it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool when people actually like listen to the little detailed things that we can hear, but like most people don't always hear. But it's cool when it gets pointed out. So thanks.
Yeah, the big theme on this was like some of the songs are like kind of older, like especially the acoustic stuff was like Moonsong you've been sitting on for like 5 years, just like as sort of a song. Like
even Desert Song, the first half of that song, I had written for like, I don't know, 4 years, and just could never think of anything else. And then we started jamming with Tosh, and I heard that drum beat where it kicks in halfway through in my head. I was like, can you just play this and see if we can transition from this to this, and like see if it'll work. And it ended up being, I think, our favorite song.
Yeah, that was a weird one. It wasn't finished when we started tracking drums. So we're like, okay, now do a beat like this. And then like he's like, oh, I had this idea. Like it started to spiral. I'm like, okay, great. So I went home with like
chopped up drums.
Yeah, I went home with like a 40-minute long experimental drum thing to the tempo that we needed, and like some of the bits like I would copy and paste and be like, all right, play over this, and just like come up with something. And then we went home and wrote the rest of the song. Just like backwards weird ways of doing things, but just I don't know, I think we were just trying to create and not worry about it too much. And
well, being able to spend 40 minutes finishing a song, I mean, like when I used to drum in a band and we went to record, and we realized once we'd written everything that like in the studio, this beat just isn't going to fly. It's not going to work. You know, you hear the intricacies, you hear the little bits and pieces that you didn't capture when you were just jamming away to the metronome, making sure you're in time and ready to go. And we tried to rewrite it, and 5-6 hours, oh, postman's going to knock on the door. 5-6 hours later, there I am in there sweating. There's the doorbell to say there's delivery. Oh, I think I've got to get up. Yeah, pardon me a second.
No, he's not home. Should we play that song?
We're live on Twitch.
Guys, you didn't have to send me anything. What is this? What are you sending me?
I don't even know your address.
You sent me some records already? Oh. Gosh, I've ordered so many records lately. I have no idea what these are for giveaways.
Cool.
What have I ordered recently? Yeah, Trucker Steve in the chat. Ding dong. Yeah. What is this? Is this my... Oh, that's for Joe. That's for Jody. All right. Okay. I had a feeling that was going to happen today.
All good.
All right.
It's like a present.
Yeah, it's the best.
It's a gift from Bexley's gods. No, what was I saying though? Damn. It's just because I mean I analyze the shit out of everything. I'll listen to a song 30, 50, 60 times and try and I go through every single part. Yeah, when I was in the studio. Yeah, so several hours later and sweating bullets, and then I threw drumsticks in frustration and was like, we're just pissing away money, because that's the intensity it feels like. You're just ruining, like you're going backwards when you're trying to go forwards. So I think, again, that's testament to the fact that you've had that time to experiment and refine and try it out. And I that's what we did as well, that I always try and ask bands is like, in speaking with Steve Bays years ago, who's a Canadian musician, you know, a massive producer here and was in Hot Heat many years back, and these days Mounties and loads of stuff. He said to me when I met him years back, I record everything. I record every jam, every show, every single second of anything I do, because the one little nugget 7 hours deep into an audio file can inspire an entire record, and it's worth it. So it sounds like you do a similar practice where there's no bad take. Keep it going because it might inspire the next great thing.
Yeah, I keep everything in hard drives for days. Our voice notes on our phone are into the thousands and thousands from years. It's just like...
Yeah, and we had nothing but time to work on this record. Like we didn't feel an urgency because nobody was expecting it, I don't think. And we were just really enjoying, like we had been playing shows with Tosh for like a year and jamming in his little garage room. And it just was fun for us to create this stuff. It was really, we're really like proud that it's like a unique thing to us, I think.
Yeah, I think, we just kind of tried, I think probably all of us collectively for the first time, we're trying to do just what we wanted to do and not really think too far beyond that. Like, well, are people going to like it? I don't know. We like it. So
yeah,
try.
Yeah. Well, I like it a lot. Desert Song was the first song that I heard, and it just blew me away. It reminded me of when my hair was longer than Steve's. And it'll get back to that at some point. But I mean, for me as well, and this is for anyone that's listened to any of my conversations, it's something I preface by saying every time. It's like a skipping record for me, but I attach to, as we all do in our own way, things I believe in. It's a simple way I can explain it, right? You're in LA, you know what the smell of bullshit is, you smell it all the time, you filter and sift your way through it, you're in LA. But that's in every city. It's not just to pick on Los Angeles, but lyrically in this record, the first thing I always do is, do I believe the singer? That's the first thing my brain thinks of, is like, yes, I get there's pop music and I get there are stories that you can twist and turn, but for the most part, there's always an identity at the core of that delivery of the vocal. Do I believe what this asshole is saying to me if I'm initially not into it? Or do I believe what this wonderful soul is? I'm going to dive into it. And one thing that you, Amanda, are not afraid to address is the mental health side of life. And that's something that I have always been extremely open about since I moved to Canada, because part of the reason why I moved to Canada was that I didn't want to die. I felt so constrained, and I felt I was multiple personalities because I had had some horrible things happen to me as a young man, and situations that I still have no idea who did what, but I know what happened when I was at elementary school. Like, that's all I'll go into for now. And then that meant the growing up in my teenage years, right? I'm filtering through all these different looks. Am I a grunge guy? Am I an emo guy? Am I an indie guy? Am I a Strokes guy? Right? Am I that New York? Oh my God, what kind of jeans are these guys? Just in the 90s and early 2000s, just trying to figure out what was what. And that's what brought me here, was the chance to, I mean, Steve, you're Canadian, for goodness sake. I haven't asked you yet. Are you East or West, or whereabouts are you originally from?
If you were in Toronto and drove 4 hours north, there's a town called Sudbury. That's where I'm from.
Okay, I got family all over Ontario. Do you know Englehart in Ontario?
Yeah.
That tiny, minuscule town. That's where my grandmother's brother was oh my God, he was like the lawyer, the postman, the fucking everything for like 40, 50 years. But yeah, I've got family all over. I mean, Kitchener and Waterloo, and I mean everywhere, Toronto, everywhere. When I first backpacked here years ago, my cousin Alan from Toronto drove me up and down, all around. And but yes, I mean, so for me, Vancouver Island. Have you ever been to Vancouver Island, Steve?
Briefly, yeah, for work, but I haven't got to explore too much.
Yeah, we haven't gone like at all yet, really.
Yeah, I've done more of America and the rest of the world than Canada, and I'm kind of ashamed of that. Like, I'd love to travel more to Canada. Just the touring part of it has always been like, it takes 3 days to get out of Ontario just for driving.
Yeah, well, exactly. Get me to Detroit, But the thing is, like, for me, though, I would counteract that in saying that my family weren't exactly, jumping on a plane and going all around the world when I was growing up. So I've barely been anywhere in Europe. And that always astounds Canadians when I'm like, I've been everywhere, pretty much everywhere other than Saskatchewan and Canada. And I'd like to get to Nova Scotia a bit more, but excuse my potential hiccups there. But I don't know. I've never been to Europe, and people over here are like, "What? It's like £50 to go to Rome. What are you doing? You're crazy." Meanwhile, it's $3,000 to fly to Calgary. No, I'm joking.
Pretty much, though.
But basically, Steve, I mean, the West Coast, it spoke to me. So my grandmother was from Shawnigan Lake on the island here, and I felt like this was the place to come and to grow. And so to go back to you, Amanda, with the lyrical content. That's why I'm listening to songs like Misery, I'm Sorry. I mean, like you said with that quote you sent yesterday for Sick, track 4, that is what was that song of the week? This is kind of the ragey song. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's not that you're necessarily writing at times so clearly of what the situation is. You're leaving that room for attachment for the listener. That's my interpretation of it. And that's certainly what I did, and why it excited me so much to try. And instantly I said to Jody, my partner, after hearing Desert Song, I need to speak to this band, because the Alice in Chains, the grunge influence, the Seattle. Yes, I mean, in the write-ups, that's Seattle is the mecca to me. So where do you remember where you both were when you first heard an Alice in Chains song?
I was probably 13. So I have a bit of an Alice in Chains background. They're kind of the reason why I play music. My dad showed me Alice in Chains when I was probably 13. Like, before that, it was like all like the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and Hilary Duff. But I was, he worked with somebody that whose kid played in a band, and they were looking for a singer on a song, like a girl singer on a song. And it ended up being this like thing where it was kind of grungy, and he showed me Alice in Chains, and the first song I heard was Brother. And I fell in love with the Sap EP because it was like kind of acoustic, kind of like, I don't know, I have a bit of darkness in me, I suppose. I just loved everything about it when I was young. And it ended up being, I made a YouTube video of Brother, and somebody saw it. Every year in Seattle, there's this Lane Staley tribute. I don't know if you know about it.
Oh, yeah.
So they asked me to play when I was 13 to do Brother at the Showbox. I don't know if you're familiar with the Showbox.
Yeah.
But, the Lane tribute was at the Showbox that year, and I had like just started playing music that year. It was in August, because it's always in August for his birthday. But everybody was there. Like his mom was there. Like all his, everyone that knew him and all the people that love him were there. So that's kind of where I started getting fans in the first place. They thought, she's the Alice in Chains girl. And I ended up just meeting everybody in that community, and they were all so loving and supportive. And it just sort of snowballed from there. But Alice in Chains is like holds a very special place in my heart. And the harmonies, I can't, like, that's my favorite. Like Lane's vocals are just the biggest inspiration to me.
Yeah, it's legendary. And so, I mean, Steve, we'll dive back to you in a second here. So you were 13, Amanda, when you started playing any music at all?
I sang for a long time. I was always like doing talent shows and like musicals and that kind of thing. Like I always loved to sing.
Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah, I sang Kelly Clarkson songs in the talent show.
Yeah.
But basically, when I was like 12 or 13, my dad had an acoustic guitar around the house, and I wanted to play like in a talent show without a karaoke track because I hated singing to karaoke tracks. So he's like, well, why don't you try to learn something on the guitar? So I just kind of tried to teach myself the songs, and he got me one of those chord charts that tells you how to do it. But yeah, 13 was when I started playing guitar with the singing, and then I just started writing songs. Like it kind of just came a bit naturally.
And did you fall into other instruments as well? I mean, because it's still at this point several years before you even meet the man next to you. So did you dive into drumming and bass and keys and everything else?
I did like dabble on the bass a bit because it was similar to the guitar, but basically I just started forming a band. Like by 14, I had a band, and we played all the time. Like I think we played like 100 shows in a year. Like it just became my life. So I didn't really play drums. I mean, we did at band practice, like mess around. I'm not very good at drums at all, but I mostly stuck to.
But you had the like kind of similar thing where it's just like the more musical directory type role where you're like, hey, what if you did this? Like, or like, what if you did this for the guitar solo, which you still do?
Yeah, mainly
it's a good skill.
I do like songwriting. Like I can hear the parts in my head, and I try to explain it to the people like around us.
The solo in Desert Song, she's like, what if it was like this? And then she went in the vocal booth, she's like, and she sang the whole thing and like note for note. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll learn that.
That's fucking sweet. That's great.
So she's got a very intense skill set, even if it's not like holding the instrument. She's like, what if you just did this? I'm like, that does make sense.
That's how my bandmate used to try and describe drum beats to me. He was just as good a drummer as me, but for some reason wouldn't sit down and show me the beat that he wanted to go with his guitar part. And so he'd start going like, go like boom and then ting and then boom and then ting. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, just get down and hit the sticks. Just
play it.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's exactly. What I was saying with Desert
Song.
What if it went? Like it switched to that time signature or whatever. Yeah.
I want to hear a B-side version now where you replace the guitar solo and just do a vocal solo.
Oh, we have it. Originally, we were going to do that, and then we listened to it, and I went, this sounds horrible. Play it on guitar.
You were actually going to use it?
Yeah, we were, and I was like, no, this is
Falling Pieces.
Yeah. Have you heard Falling to Pieces off the earlier EP?
Right. How you'd laid up your vocal.
Sorry?
Because you'd done all the vocal layering, or am I thinking of a different song on the same self-entitled record?
There's a song called Falling to Pieces on the first EP, Lost in the Moment, and there's a guitar solo in that song, but it's actually my voice like through a bunch of pedals doing a guitar solo. So we thought, oh, maybe we'll like nod to that on Desert Song, but it ended up sounding really stupid. So Steve just
it sounds really cool on the first record though.
Do you remember how far into the song Falling to Pieces it was in?
Somewhere around 2:30, something around there.
Okay, let's just jump to 2:30.
Yeah, it's after the second chorus. It does like chorus, post-chorus, and then guitar solo, and it's actually her voice.
Oh God, I'm playing Rainwolf. What?
Oh no,
we saw him the other night.
Yeah.
Oh, did you? Oh man, that show. According to Everything he shares on Instagram is just a sweat fest of almighty fun. I mean, the guy is a
so
walking clinic. He is just scintillating. Oh my God.
His show makes me nervous because it's purposely like he's structured it to like it feels like it's gonna come unhinged at any moment, but it gives it that like I don't know. You're either gonna fight or dance. It's pretty cool.
He challenges every audience, even when they think they love him. That he still finds a way. I've seen him, I think, 6 times.
Cool.
He still finds a way. I'll never forget the first time I saw him. Why is it that if you YouTube, you can Google YouTube and then go to YouTube and then you can Google Rainwolf plus live, and there's a performance he did at a festival in Cincinnati or something where it was absolutely pissing it down with rain. I mean, it was torrential, and he was just like this rock god. He and his band just soaked, and he played Satisfied, and he's like looking up at the heavens like, are you not satisfied? And then just the man, and that's when I first saw him, was at a festival here on the island where it was absolutely hosing it down, and he just comes out like, I'm going to burn this place down, and you're going to ask why. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say anything grandeur and ridiculous. He keeps it very simple. He's just a guy who wants to fucking rock out, and that's what he does.
Yeah, it's great.
But it's just so fearless. He doesn't. I wish I could tap in some of that energy about this, because I get so particular about the finite things. I wish I could just let go like he lets go, because he'll make a mistake. He'll turn that mistake into gold dust. He'll then be like, I changed the time signature. Oh, I changed the key. Oh, that was a dud note, you think? Oh, I'll just do the rest of the solo flat now. I'll go in thirds now. I'll go in fifths. He doesn't care. He's that good. Anyway.
Yeah.
Falling to Pieces. Let's see, about 2 minutes 30 in. Yeah, here we go.
Right. Yeah.
I remember now. And that's what most people think they hear in the woods late one night after watching Blair Witch Project for the 3rd time.
Yeah.
I mean, to even be able to do that is nuts. Did you not damage your vocal cords?
No, it was put through a pedal, and I'm sure it doesn't sound as crazy as it sounds there. It was I worked with this guy named Aaron Edwards, and he's a really cool producer songwriter. And it was before like Steve got super involved.
I think I just edited the drums on that record. That was my role.
Bexley was kind of me at first, and then we expanded. But on that song in particular, Aaron had me in headphones hearing what was going through the pedals. So I didn't really hear my actual voice. I just heard what I was doing, and I just did what sounded cool.
Sweet.
That was a cool way of recording it.
Yeah.
We went to Boss and Roland have been helping us out like a ton the last couple of years. They're super, super kind to us, and have been
they endorse us. It's awesome.
Yeah, they're super, super the nicest people ever, and anything we've ever needed help with, they've helped. And but when we first went to their office here in town, they had like done I was just impressed that they cared. So they went and listened to the catalog and were like, hey, we've been talking around the office. What did you use in that song? Like, what pedal is that? Or is it your voice? Some people think it's your voice. And I was like, you guys, like, that's awesome. Like, I don't know. It was just nice that somebody was trying to like do some investigating and try to figure it out.
Well, have they made a new pedal that you can use for the live show just to initiate crazy mode?
Live, I use the Super Shifter, which they don't make anymore. It's just a pedal that goes like woo. But like when you stomp on it, it shoots it up to whatever note, or shoot it down to whatever note you want. I use it all the time. That's kind of my go-to for that part. I just play the solo like as I sang it on that pedal. But
Well, that's sweet. I honestly was going to mainly focus on the new album, so that's great. I appreciate you sharing that little detail. That's so flipping cool. And Steve, I've not forgotten about that first memory and inkling of Alice in Chains in your life. I mean, I know that I grew up getting a Beatles record every year. My dad singing Neil Diamond and Zeppelin and Sabbath and all that sort of style at me. But for you, Steve, the first of Alice in Chains in your life?
Mostly it was Amanda, because I came from like
turn him onto it.
Well, I came from like,
he's like the biggest Zeppelin fan in the world, which I know is like cliche because everybody is, but like
Yeah, well, I just came from that more like that era more, I guess. Like my dad he's not, I was gonna say closeted hippie, but he's not closeted about it. My dad is a hippie and he was a drummer. Still is a drummer, but he kind of got me onto that like 60s, 70s era of music. And then I got into blues rock and I was kind of one of those kids that like wanted to do that. And then it kind of, I think when I was like late teens, my bass player at the time got me into like Queens of the Stone Age and more of that sort of desert rock vein of things, and Soundgarden. And
Queens of the Stone Age is like a huge influence on us as well. I don't know if it comes through, but we like go to them anytime we need some kind of inspiration as well.
I don't know why it wasn't more Alice in Chains, but when we got together, like when we started hanging out, I was like, you know, it was pretty clear that's what we were going to listen to. So I got more deep into it there. I'm like, okay, no, I get it. And like, I started learning like the whole story and why they did what and who was in the band and who was doing what. And then she would get into the harmonies. But you hear what they're doing there? I was like, I didn't, but I do now.
What's so impressive to me is like as the story goes, Lane would just walk in and sing the harmonies that came to him. Like it wasn't like a practice rehearsed thing. He just knew what to sing to make it sound cool. I don't know.
I think, that's played pretty big into what we're doing. Honestly, Amanda's freaky good at that too. Is like she'll sing the main line. I'm like, do you want to do a harmony? And it's like kind of my follow-up question anytime she records a vocal part, even if it's just a demo. I'm like, do you want to sing a harmony on it? Because it pretty much ends up there anyway. And she'll come up with cool, weird ones, and we'll either use it or not. But that's definitely played into how we come up with things. I think it's just like
that was one of my worries on this record, was that I over harmonized every song, but I think it's just kind of true to what I like to do. So
worry in what sense? What you're listening back and you're critiquing yourself, or you've got trusted friends that say, oh my gosh, like the solos every song are okay, but why harmony?
I sometimes I worry that I'm overdoing it on harmonies. Like listeners aren't going to want to hear a harmony on every single part. For me, I could listen to an entire song with 3-part harmonies and be happy about it. But I know that like the main melody needs to come through. And so I just kind of try to like balance the harmonies and make sure they flow right and not just, over inundate everybody with it. But
that's interesting, because to me, it's not a tool. To me, it's part of what makes Bexley Bexley.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's what I want.
I think that's where we were headed. Yeah.
Because I mean, we've all been galvanized by rock or alternative rock. I mean, we've spoken about Yonica, Calvin Louise, right? We've mentioned 4 or 5 in this chat the last 30 minutes alone. They stand out to us for a reason. And what I found so intriguing about your sound was that it was so textured, so layered, so particular, yet still so wild, if I can say such a thing.
Thank you.
And that's what is so fascinating. Side note, this is a great read. I'm not sure if you've read David De Sola's Alice in Chains.
I haven't read that.
This is fabulous. Actually, when I opened the book randomly, I opened it randomly.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, my friend Chris Cafaro.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it's hanging on my wall. Sidebar again.
Oh yes, Chris. There it is, Chris.
Yeah. So Chris, sidebar. I met him via Instagram, and he's taken incredible photos of a ton of people.
They're so good. The ones he's done of you.
Oh, thank you. He shot our music video, a couple of our music videos as well. Misfit Love and Toxic Love.
Yeah.
But yeah, he took just amazing photos, and I fell in love with his like Soundgarden photos, and particularly the Chris Cornell ones out in the desert. I don't know if you've seen those photos.
Jesus Christ photos, right?
Yeah. Where he's got his shirt off and he's like, looking like an angel.
They're legendary. I mean, that's so fascinating. I'm so glad I grabbed this book, because one thing that I've noticed with Chris is that he loves orange and yellow.
Yeah.
He just seems to use it so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he does a lot of black and whites as well, which he does it well. Yeah. Anyway, that's funny. It's Small World. I should read that book.
Yeah, but, it's great.
Yeah, Chris has been a massive supporter as well, and just kind of helped shape some of the look and Yeah.
Some good advice along the way.
Good advice as well. Yeah.
So your dad's the hippie. He's the drummer. You're growing up. He throws you a guitar and says, "Come on, learn it."
Well, he I think I was like 9 and I was like, I want to play guitar. Well, first, like when I was a kid, I would tap on the drums because like they were there, and my dad's left-handed too, which is weird. So I was always, he's like, no, just we'll put it the other way so you can learn. And I was like, no, I'll just learn it this way. He's like, please don't learn it left-handed. It's gonna be I get it now. He's like, it's gonna be a huge pain in the ass. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're kind of right. But so I would tap around, and then I was like, I want to play guitar. I'm 9 years old. Let's do it. And I went to a guitar store in town, and well, actually, we went to a pawn shop and got like $100, $150 for like a Strat copy and a little amp. And I went to the guitar store in town and took lessons, and I hated it because it hurt my fingers. And we were doing like sight reading, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star stuff, and I was like, I'm never doing this again. Like, I'm just gonna play the drums. So I did that for 2 or 3 years. But all of my friends also did that because like our house was the one that everybody came to hang out at when I was a kid. Like our friends, we were out in the woods, so it was just like, yeah, run around in the woods, play some drums. So we all ended up being drummers, which isn't good for jamming because it's just everybody taking turns on one drum kit.
Yeah.
So my friend Dustin, who was my first drummer, he's actually the drummer in the Run Rabbit Run video, which we shot in my parents' driveway in Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the lights behind us are the bass player's truck. My friend Kev.
Yeah, he just flicked his headlights on to light us up.
Yeah, so it's very DIY again. But yeah, so it was just like nobody to play with. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try guitar again. I'm 13 now. Let's see what we can do. So I got really into it. And I think by 15 or 14 and a half, we were playing like all the local bars in our town. But we were doing like 60 cover songs, like AC/DC, Zeppelin, and whatever, we just wanted to play. So like weeknights, school nights, it doesn't matter. We're going to play any venue that'll let us play in town. We were going to play. So they kind of took off there from when I was like 13. I got into guitar again, and yeah, can't play the drums anymore, unfortunately, but I really love them.
Yeah, I mean, trying to go left-handed is quite the way and fray to start that for sure.
Yeah.
No, it's fascinating. I just love all the little bits and pieces that come together and tack on to what is our individual growth and life journey.
Yeah,
Queens of Stone Age, one of my favorite bands. I mean, all my favorite bands are on me. Sort of artwork alludes to them. That's my Queens of Stone Age, dude. I'm not sure how far away I have to get.
Oh, cool.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
And then Deftones reference. And,
nice Deftones.
Yeah, lots of Deftones references, and the Cat Empire from Australia.
They're amazing.
Foo Fighters up here. Yeah, I mean, it's
only got Zeppelin.
Sweet. That's for me, that's what I always say to people that's why I love the question of what's your earliest musical memory, because as I said 10 minutes ago, every birthday or Christmas, I'll get a Beatles CD or cassette. And from my dad, my parents had a coach company for the first 12, 14 years of my life before that went kaput. And with that, just driving around a lot with dad and listening to his baritone voice bellowing anything from Neil Diamond to ABBA to Zeppelin to Pink Floyd to whatever it was going to be back at me. And so those are my distinct memories. But my dad as well was someone, I mean, he's still alive. I love him very much. He's still alive, Dad. I doubt he's ever going to listen to this, but if you do, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'd get home from school one day and you'd never know what he'd be bellowing. Like if he liked a song, he would run around the house and he would just let it go. And that's what inspired me to just not be afraid of goofing out and letting it out. And so for me, what always comes to mind is Coolio, I'll See You When I Get There. For some reason, I think we had just got cable. It came on MTV and he was like, this is a great song, this, don't you think, son? This is, I'll see you when you get there. I was like, okay, Dad, okay. And he sang that for weeks.
That's funny.
That's why I always ask that.
It's funny you say like he would sing out his songs, because I have a very distinct memory of like early on when I was playing in bands. Like my dad, we would listen to all the cool music in his truck, and I would sing along to all the music. And he one day was like, it amazes me that you have the confidence to just sing out a song in the car. And it like stuck in my head, like, oh, not everybody just likes to sing and like like maybe I actually really love this. And I don't know, it just kind of clicked with me that it was something that I was passionate about.
Yeah. And you get the pop quiz for the Beatles.
Oh yeah, all the time when I was a kid, like 3 years old, he'd quiz me which Beatle was singing. He'd be like, "Okay, now can you tell that who's singing?" I'd say John Lemon. He's like, "Can you tell it's John because he's sadder?"
Yeah. Actually, Queen was a massive one as well with my dad. Queen, everything.
My mom was super into Queen. She would crank I forget which concert it was, Montreal or something. One of the live concerts. She would just, every once in a while, she'd decide to clean the entire house and she would just blast it. And she'd be singing. It was awesome. Yeah.
I terribly forget who it was that Freddie teamed up with for the Live at Barcelona record, but when he did Barcelona, the opera song with that, I mean, that terrible that I don't recall in this moment who she is, but my dad would run around the house. You'd know when he was having a good day because he'd get back, he'd throw it on the Technic system and just walk around, Barcelona. Just like, Dad, what the hell are you doing, man? You remember those microphones? Did you ever have one of those as a kid? They're like cheapy plastic with the built-in reverb.
Yeah.
And he'd be walking around Barcelona. Oh, goodness gracious.
That's awesome. So good.
Well, I mean, yeah, sorry. So, look, I don't want to dive into spending the next short while talking about Queen. They're established and have their wonderful movies and biographies and all sorts. Oh, Boopa Doopy just said in chat, it's my best friend Alex over in Gloucester in the south of England. Mate, I went to school with Brian May's daughter.
Oh, cool.
I didn't know that.
Well, I guess awesome. I could tell you, Bexley, the name comes from England.
The town of Bexley?
Yeah, so my dad's side of the family is all from there.
Right.
A lot of them are still there.
A lot of them, they're all still there. My nana moved to America with my dad, like my aunt and uncle, and then they had my dad in America.
And they moved to Toronto first. The three of us have a lot of parallels.
Yeah, indeed.
So that we actually were in England 4 years ago maybe.
Yeah, the lockdown
before Bexley started, and we were there, and their trash can says Bexley, like the London Borough of Bexley, and we're like, that's it, like that's what we were trying to think of, like what to call ourselves, and like that's it. And that was it.
Yeah, we wanted to do the mononym type band thing where it's like ambiguous. It could be just Amanda as Bexley or the band as Bexley.
Yeah, people call me Bex sometimes.
Yeah,
which I was a really cool thing that kind of caught on.
I was working for St. Vincent at the time, and she's kind of done that in her own way. It's like St. Vincent is kind of the band, but it's her, and it's sort of, I don't know. It's a cool way to do it. I think it gives it a little bit of,
mystique.
Yeah.
Well, big time. I mean, the way I go about preparing for these sort of conversations got very dark in here, didn't it? The way I go about preparing, certainly on this camera, on your camera, it might be fine.
No, looks good.
But this is a different kind of conversation to when I've had the chance to speak to Black Pumas or Nothing But Thieves, etc. In that these are bands that are so rampant in the mainstream that I can jump in, and I usually look back and watch the last 7 to 10 interviews they've done, read or watch the last 7 to 10, see how they've gone through that process, whether that's all done in a day or across a few weeks, and then that just galvanizes, okay, what direction do I want to go in? And it's not that I'm necessarily trying to go in a different one, because it's not that I've got a better direction. It's just that I'm just trying to be cognizant of the journey that the artist has gone through, and sometimes it can be very monotonous. As much as it's brilliant, it can be monotonous. And with you there's not that much, and I don't say this rudely, there's not that much out there. The mystique is very much alive, because I only knew Amanda once you'd signed an email, or then in finding a couple of blogs. I found one really good blog I found, and this keeps coming up actually. It was the interview with indiemusicwomen.com.
Yeah.
And I find that Linda Garnett is running such a wonderful blog of discovery there. I found out about a lot of bands through what Linda's done. And that was where I was like, oh, I've got some fucking detail to work with. There's something here. I'm not walking in completely blind. I'd like to have something other than just my emotions that led to the intrigue and the want to speak in the first place. But no, this is great. I mean, it gave me enough to be like, okay, I feel like I can make a conversation work. I mean, I could talk the hind legs off a donkey anyway most of the time, but
Yeah, I mean, it was even with the question you asked, like giving you a quote about sick, it made me think about it. And it's hard to write down in words what I was trying to say is like, I don't know if you've ever felt like anger towards yourself for feeling a certain way.
Yeah, a lot.
That's what I was trying to convey with that song. Like the emotion of the song kind of goes with the words. Like, yeah, you're angry at yourself for feeling sad. Like, I don't want to feel sad right now. Like that's kind of how.
Because it's frustrating how much time you can spend wasting time.
Yeah, and
Just,
that's something I deal with a lot. Like I'm wasting a lot of time right now feeling a way I don't want to feel, and you just learn how to avoid that, I guess.
yeah, it's just working on it. Like I was speaking about with my partner last night, you know, life is constant growth. And as much as I say that a lot, you know, 10, 15 years ago, I thought that kind of dialogue was cheesy as shit. I thought this mindfulness and this, you know, Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, you should check that book out, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh my God, guys, I don't care. But then growing up, going through similar situation over and over again and being like, do I want to rinse and repeat this despair situation? I don't think I fucking want to.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's what actually now, Amanda, I wanted to try and find a way to jump back into this because we sort of went off on a tangent after trying to jump into the mental health chat 20 minutes ago, but it's also got to be right. You can't just, the moment has to be right. So I feel like now is the moment. But for me, there are a variety of things that I've built over the last 20 years and still a lot more fucking work to do. Let me make that clear. I am not some perfect specimen who's happy all the time. I am extremely destructive when I make the most minuscule mistake. And it used to take me 7 to 10 days, nay, a month to get out of that pit that I would build myself with my own curated narrative.
Right.
And so for me, many of the things that I do now, well, it started several years ago with, I would write down everything that brought me joy, whether that was a show I went to and a quick 2-sentence write down, date it, time it, when I wrote it, when I was there, whether that's a scandalous quote my friend said when he was stoned one night, whether that was what a listener called and said that really lifted me and channeled some positivity. So I'd start to refer back to that little notepad. And then after 4 or 5 years of that went, because then I'm like trying to find and create channels of remembering that without needing the physical, because there'll be moments where you don't necessarily have that notepad. You're not going to be on a photo shoot in the desert, right? And you're feeling anxious because you don't want to take photos. Like, where's my book? Oh, it's in LA. Fuck. So for me, it's a variety of things. Like in this sense, it's making sure I exercise every day, going for a little walk at least, drinking copious amounts of tea. This is what our conversation has been so far, is 5 cups of tea.
Do that as well.
What are some of the practices that you, Amanda, and Steve, you go through? Because at the same time, right, you're writing, and I promise you I'm going to throw back to you in a second here, but you're writing these songs, you're sharing your soul. You've got to navigate then when you want to dive into to sharing that, whether you're playing it live or just existing in and around it, knowing that you've got it off your chest. You know, sometimes you might not even want to sing a song anymore, like Idol's talking about some of their songs, Joe Talbot yesterday, that were very angry from a few years ago that they're just not going to play live anymore. And I was like, oh, damn, that's one of the greatest songs you've done. But that's down to you. So now over to you with all that mountain of fucking context from me.
Yeah, I think you were pretty spot on. I've lately, in the last year or so, have been really trying to find the small things that bring me happiness every day and focusing on those small things, like whether it's like the process of making a tea that I like that routine makes me happy, or, you know, writing down something that I'm grateful for, like that will also bring me happiness, and just trying to switch your brain to focus on the good instead of the bad, because I do get caught up often, like when we're playing music. I'm kind of a perfectionist in a sense where I hear it in my head immediately, and if it doesn't come out exactly how I hear it in my head when we record it, I get so angry and it like takes me away from it. Like I can't write it anymore. I have to step back and just come back to it again when I'm in a better headspace. So I've been trying to figure out how to navigate that feeling and remind myself we're doing it for fun. We're doing it because we love it. It's hard not to get caught up in it and feel certain ways, because it's a lot of pressure too to try to make money playing music. Like you often wonder, like, is this gonna work out? Like I want to do this, and so it's hard not to get in that cycle. But I have the things I know will take me back on track, and I work on them.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's similar for you.
Yeah, I think I probably have my own
You just plow through.
demons. Well, I think for me, it's just like, honestly, I think the only thing I've found that really works is, it doesn't always work, but the only thing that I can find consistently that works is just make something. I don't know why, but in my brain, I have to just like, I don't know if it's like just messing around in Photoshop, even like just like trying to come up with something, get creativity flowing in my head, somehow just takes me out of whatever cycle my brain is in. Like even just playing guitar long enough, I can kind of trick myself into not remembering what I was annoyed about or upset about.
Yeah.
But I think there's a cathartic end of like going back to Sick.
These songs are so emotional for me. Like writing them all lyrically, they are all of my emotions. Like each song kind of takes on a different emotion.
I'm reminding her all the time too, like Sick, it's about a very clear anger at yourself.
Yeah, it's a picture of a moment. You know, like it's one specific captured moment.
But now, even, I mean, we're not like a massive band, but by any means, but that song is playing, I think, in a rotation now at the stadium in Seattle, just from sort of hearsay from people she knows, just being like, oh, this song is cool. Sort of like now we hear like people posting little clips from like a soccer game. We're like, oh shit, that's our song. Like, holy crap. And for us, that's like a big thing. And I'm like, well, that came out of you feeling angry at yourself. And now it's like playing there. We got this cool video from it. Like, we have a Fred Durst quote from it that's kind of funny because Tosh, Fred Durst, and like showed him one of the songs. He's like, "Oh, that song punched me in the fucking face." And like, just like little, I don't know. It's just like if you can be angry at yourself and then turn it into other people being excited, it's kind of a cool like paradigm to be in. And
you kind of have to detach yourself at a certain point too. Like if I'm Sorry makes me cry if I sing along to it for long enough. Or
that's my favorite song.
Like we recently played Austin City Limits and Far From Home. Like it was such an emotional day. We haven't even gotten into this yet. I don't know how much time you have.
All day.
So sidebar, at Austin City Limits, I don't know if you read this or not, but we were set to play at, I think, 1:45 or
we were like first of the day on our stage, like the BMI stage.
Yeah, and we showed up when they told us to show up.
It's like 9 a.m.
Sidebar, the night before we received like a flood warning at like 4:30 in the morning. It was torrential rain.
It was like the Amber Alert like push notification thing. It's like, hey, there's flooding, like stay home,
don't drive. Like, and so it had cleared by morning. Like it was just drizzling. So we made it to the festival grounds. We like loaded all our gear onto the stage. We went to go get catering, like breakfast.
They're like, oh, you have about a half hour, go get something
half hour
to eat
before sound check. So we came back for sound check and our stage manager came up to us and he goes, guys, I have some bad news.
He's such a nice guy too. It felt so bad.
We were like, what? Like what? And he was like, you're not going to play today. We were just like, wait, are you joking? Like,
we just drove like 21 hours.
We drove to Texas from LA. And he was like, I'm so sorry. Like, there's flooding on the field. All the bands before 3 p.m. are canceled today. And we were like, shocked. Like, it's like, it just led to this moment of like, oh, we're finally playing a festival. Like we're going to get some, credit to our name. Just completely taken aback and had about 20 minutes of just deep depression. And then he came back to us 20 minutes later and he's like, you guys, how do you want to play at 7 p.m. tonight?
Oh boy.
We're like,
that's a fucking upgrade.
Yeah. We're like,
we actually ended up being in between, like on a different stage, but in between Megan Thee Stallion and Miley Cyrus. Like that was
and we were positioned so like if you needed to leave Megan Thee Stallion to get a drink and go see Miley Cyrus, you have to go past us.
Wow. What three powerhouse vocal performers.
Oh my God. It was,
and you're included in that, Amanda, by the way.
So thank you.
Yeah.
yeah, Miley was like one of my heroes when I was growing up.
Unbelievable, Miley. Yeah.
I think I said I get to play the same festival as Hannah Montana. But yeah, it was one of the most emotional days of my life. And then we played Far From Home last at our set, and I just like started crying. Like I couldn't help but cry, because that song is like one of the most emotional songs for me on the record as well. And yeah, it was insane. It's absolutely, the songs are emotional is my point.
Yeah, I think for us too, it's like, it might not seem like a big deal. It's like, oh, it's just a festival or whatever. But for us, it's like, no, we've been building this from nothing. And, you know, we've had help along the way. Obviously, we're very fortunate, but like, it's.
Yeah, even just to see our name on the poster was just.
Oh yeah, I bought like 3 T-shirts with our name on the back. I'm like.
I'd never imagined I would ever do that.
We were getting into the territory where we're spending more money than we're making on their merch. Like, just because I'm like, this is the first thing.
Yeah.
No, that
was taken away, but
it worked though. It worked out better.
Somebody saved us that day, and whoever it was,
Hannah Montana.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess you just got to source an old poster or whatever and see who was lined up at 7 p.m. Maybe they cancelled because they were like, fuck it, we're hungover.
Our stage ended.
Our stage ended at like
6, yeah. And they were like, oh, well, now the big boys are out to play. Like everybody's, like the main stages are cooking, so we don't want anybody. But there was this one little window they could shove us in. And we're like, yes, please.
We were the only band that day that got rescheduled that day.
Yeah, everybody else
got canceled.
Wow. Well, I mean, there's so much that I don't, and we don't know about that situation. But for me, my gut says that the manager that you spoke to, the stage manager, was like, I like these guys.
Yeah.
I want to help these guys.
Honestly, that like I've worked at a lot of festivals, like working for other bands. The people at that festival were some of the nicest lovely people. They like all super helpful. Even the security was like,
oh my God. So there was one guy that came from Florida, because after the show, I ran out to the front of the crowd because I wanted to meet everybody, like, and sort of like solidify fans if they were out there. And there was this one guy, he was holding our set list, and he's like, I came from Florida for you guys. I was like, are you kidding me? You came from Florida to see us, like a nobody band. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
And the security lady, he was really nice. So the security lady came up and she was like, all right, one more picture. I got to take her back. And she's like, I just want to make sure you're okay out here.
Yeah.
It was fine, but it was just nice to have like people treat you like they would treat like a proper bigger band. Yeah, I don't know. It was just, they were all very kind.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate to have been to an awful lot of festivals over the last 15, 17 years. And for me, my takeaway is that when you've got security walking around with such respect and grounding, that speaks volumes for the organizer. Big time.
Absolutely.
It's a hell of a machine to run. I actually got a message today from a local festival, which kind of took me by surprise, being like, yo, now that you're a free agent, do you want to work in festivals? And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that, man. I don't know if I want to do that. I'll talk to all the artists. I don't know if I want to be making sure they're on time, because that clicks into, for me, when you're speaking about it's those little nuggets of awesome, right? It's those little nuggets of awesome. The band that I was in was only for 2-3 years. We'd really built something quite strong here. We were very proud of it. Right? That's part of the journey. You're allowed to be proud. You're allowed to look back positively on what you've grown to, even if it doesn't seem like really anything in the grand scale of things. But certainly from being in radio and being in the industry a little bit, it opened some doors to us. It gave us a chance to play shows or with bands that maybe we weren't ready for at the time. But certainly you learn, like, I'll never forget the first show we played was for a band called Fast Romantics. Mm-hmm. One of the first shows we played where we're like, yeah, we know what the set is now. We're not just going out there and flailing rock and roll. But they were more of a genteel indie band compared to our bludgeoning, grunge blues inspired. We're going to make a lot of fucking noise. And we learned a lot that night from just the balancing out of the sound man, Darcy being like, whoa, you two bands are very different. And all those little increments. But to speak to your point, Steve, when you're looking at the posters and you're buying all the T-shirts and spending all your money on the merch, when we were asked to be on Rock the Shores here on Vancouver Island a handful of years ago, and I just was talking about the Cat Empire here. Mm-hmm. They were one of the headliners that year. And Eagles of Death Metal playing the same day, a few hours later, Metric playing right the next night. Like, to see your name, to see Stinging Bell at that point, and then see all these bands, it is really special. And from a radio standpoint, when I ran the Band of the Month program for only my last year of the 10 years that I worked there, but what I always said in meetings was how cool it is. Like, for Bexley, for example, that you get your first radio play and they're like, okay, we had Pearl Jam, Even Float, that was Bexley, was Sick, and now here's the latest from Queens of Stone Age. That's really special. The energy that galvanizes for that artist and is so scintillating. So like when our band was on the radio and I'd be like driving around going, oh my God, I got Queens of Stone Age here, I've got Foo Fighters here, and someone just played our band between those two bands. That doesn't make sense to me, but it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So
it's very weird. It's surreal.
Yeah, I think it's those little things that kind of keep it moving. I think if you can stay excited about those things too, like I know it probably gets monotonous once you're like a massive band. Like they're like, oh yeah, we're on the radio. But I'm like, I think if you can stay kind of excited, like no, like all of the bands you listen to, you're becoming like you're in their peer group. You might not be at the same level, but like you're doing it. Like they started where you are. And
yeah, I mean, I have been lucky to befriend Mike Inez from Alice in Chains, and that in itself is surreal to me. Like, I'm not trying to name drop at all. Like, he's been like super supportive of me since I was younger, and you know,
he's just a nice guy.
He's just a nice person, and it's nice to meet the people that you idolize, and you know, a lot of them are really nice people that are down to earth as well.
He had that idea on the first EP too. There was the song "Toxic Love." It was there's a harmony part. And
in the chorus,
yeah. Well, you tell it better.
Yeah, there's two parts in the chorus. There's like a higher part and a lower melody, and I had the higher part mixed louder. And Mike was like, "It's really cool. Have you thought about putting the lower bit as the main melody in that section?" And we did, and then it just like clicked into place. I was like, "That was perfect advice." Like honestly, it was perfect for that song.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know what my point is with all this, but
no, it's all detail. No, to you, it's like, oh gosh, what am I talking about? To me, it's like, feed me more of this information.
Yeah, I think we got real lucky just meeting kind musicians in bands bigger than us who've like, you know, they're not like, I don't know. It's not like we're not special. They're just being kind people and giving us advice, and that's
even,
like just listen.
Like we met Jesse from Eagles of Death Metal.
Yeah.
It was shortly. It was. I don't know if you ever saw the documentary on the whole Paris thing.
Yeah.
But we went to the premiere of it here, and he was there. That obviously they played, and outside after the show, he was just hanging outside, and we were like, "Hey, like, you know, we love your band, and you know all that." And he's like, "You guys want to come over for a party?"
He's like, "I'm having a party at my house."
Yeah.
Okay.
And we met so many people through him as well, like just in that world of the desert rock kind of scene.
Yeah. Or even when I was 15, I was really into Joe Bonamassa, the blues rock.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So that's, again, this is where the world I was coming from. When you're like Alice in Chains, I was like, no, I was listening to like John Lee Hooker. But
yeah.
And then I kind of went backwards or forwards, I guess, in time. But so Joe Bonamassa, I went to see him with my dad. Like he played it was like the first time in forever that he played in Canada. And my dad's like, I'm gonna go to my dad's super support. Both my parents are, but he was like, we're gonna go to the 3 shows he's playing around Toronto. Like, let's just go because we don't know when he's gonna come back. So I'm 15 going on 16. Took me to that. And after the first show, we went up to the stage, like, you know, get a set list or a pick or something. I'm just a kid. And like, I just saw this guy I wanted to see forever. And the keyboard player, Rick, and the bass player, Carmine, came out to the edge of the stage and just like talked to me for a minute. My dad's like, can you give, and I'm shy, like I wouldn't say a word, but my dad was like, can you give him some advice? Like he really wants to do this. And Carmine especially, like both of them, but Carmine especially just like laid into like, this is the realities of it. Like, this is kind of the work it takes. And like, you know, like just stick to it. And like, there's going to be hard times, whatever. Like just for good sound advice from somebody who, if you like Google him afterward, which I did because I was 15, and I was like, oh, let's see what he's done. He was Let's Dance, like Bowie, that's him on bass. Like he was on the whole Glass Spider tour. He was Rod Stewart's musical director. Like he literally played for everybody. and is just the kindest man ever. Later, flash forward to I was like 19, I went to another show. Bonamassa came to Canada. I was like, I'm going to go see him at this casino. And I ran into Carmine in the lobby. I was like, hey, like I met you when I was like 15. He's like, I remember you came with your dad to those shows around Toronto. I was like, how do you remember that? And he gave me his phone number and he's like, hey, if you're ever coming down to LA, because I told him I was trying to move and like all of these things, like just, if you need anything, just let me know. And we're still like close friends with him now.
Long story short, he's a very close friend of ours.
Yeah, like
he's amazing. And Dina as well.
His girlfriend.
Dina's, yeah.
He helped me move to the US, like reference letters and everything. He's just the kindest people ever. And it's not to like be name droppy or whatever. It's just, he's somebody who's super successful in his own right and doesn't need to help people really, but they do because they're good people. So sorry, it's a tangent, but we got really lucky.
No, I'm going to interrupt because this is important. Is that this is the way that any conversation I'm a part of goes, is that you will share whatever you are comfortable in sharing, however you do so. And that there is no such thing as you've taken too long and there's too many tangents or you've said too much or you're name dropping. I don't think anyone watching is feeling any arrogance in this share at all. I'm just in awe of how incredible it's so, because I was having a chat just a few weeks ago with Adam from the Howlers, and he was talking about some of the people that he's met that he adored, and the Howlers are from England. It's fascinating because we've all met people that maybe we idolize or we look up to, and then it goes in different ways. I always get uncomfortable when I try and talk about other people's. That's Adam's story to share, and I don't want to mash up, ruin verbatim trying to quote it back to you, but. For me, I think back to the fleeting chances I've had where I've met people that I've been inspired by. And the story that always comes to mind first is Robert Smith. When I'm like 17, 18 years old, I'm trying to, I think, Alex, you're watching right now. I don't know. I was just trying to get to someone in London for a party or something. Mm-hmm. And I was in a pub. I thought I was in the pub where they were all at. And there's Robert Smith sat at the table. And my dad always used to say to me, that guy looks like he's been dragged through a hedge backwards. That's how Dad would describe Robert Smith of the Cure's style, like what is this? Yeah. And I just sat down with him for like 2 minutes. I was like, oh, hi, have you seen any, he's like, oh, just very gentle, this. And I was like, why do I feel like I recognize you? He's like, oh, I don't know. My name's Robert. Nice to meet you. And actually Lemmy is the other one. When I went to LA, which we were speaking about like 50 minutes ago, the only time I went there, I wanted to go to the Rainbow Room. I wanted to go and try and sit in the seat that you can't fucking come near this seat. Because this was Lemmy's seat. This is now a historical artifact. Do not put your bum cheeks anywhere near any of these seats, you simpleton. You're not Lemmy. No. But I really wanted to go in there and feel that energy. And when I went to see the Foo Fighters in Hyde Park in London, I think this is 2005. At the time, I was I'd gone through a performing arts school of sorts. I was then a teacher there as a media teaching assistant, to be clear, for a couple of years. And one of the parents, millionaire parents, said, our son, he needs someone responsible to live with. He's going to go to this music college in the town that you live. We'll pay rent. Do you want to live with him? And I thought, fuck yeah, great. I'll get a really sweet crib. And I learned a lot in that experience, which was that not everyone knows how to use a washing machine or how to even brush their own teeth or wash their face, because they've had people in the past that have done it for them. All love Chris, if ever you come across this. But Chris, one day, we'd sort of decided I wasn't going to live with him anymore. And he was like, well, let's do one more fun thing. So I went up to London and we were hanging out one weekend, getting stoned. And then for some reason, we're on eBay and he found these tickets. He's like, oh my God, there's 2 gold circle tickets to Foo Fighters with Juliet and the Licks and with Motorhead and with Angels and Airwaves, and they're 50 quid each. They were usually 200. We got to go. I was like, when did the show start? It's like 25 minutes, but we're half an hour away. We might miss the opening band. To skip forward to my story here, at the end of the show, we're in the gold circle where there was only, I think, 500, 750 people. My sister was at the same show. She's 7 years older. She was 30,000 people at the back. She was hearing the show 12 seconds after we fucking heard the show.
That's wild.
And that was when Queen came out and did the encore with Foo Fighters, and Taylor came out and started doing. That was when they really started to do the whole Queen encore and Taylor singing more Queen. And we're smoking a joint after the show, and the police come over and they're like, "What are you fucking doing?" And I think I just turned 19 or 20 or something, like, I don't know, 21 maybe. And I'm like, oh my God, my life's over. And Chris is just completely quiet. And I'm like, well, we're at a rock and roll show. He went, yeah, that's not allowed. Put it out. And then there was this voice behind him, which was Lemmy, which was like, nah, let it go. Whatever this. And he just came over and he was smoking too. He was walking through with whiskey and a smoke. And he's just like, they're just kids. They've clearly been inspired. Just get up and walk it off. Get out the grounds. And then what? Just join all the people and get on with it. And just that, like 60, 90 seconds alone was epic to me. It was
so memorable.
There's no reason for this guy to give a shit.
Yeah.
So I love hearing these little stories because I don't share that from a point of Lemmy's my best friend. I don't know him at all other than that experience and what I've listened to or read or watched. But with Jesse, one of the first interviews he did after Paris, and after he'd done all the major interviews, when they played that festival, Rock the Shores, and he spoke with my colleague at the Zone at the time, Paul Plastino, and he rocked up to the station. It was meant to be like an afternoon show chat. He rocked up at like 6:15 when they'd done, but they let the afternoon guy stay on to do it. Pulls out the joint and is like, I just need to calm down. I need to do this. And then, he just goes with the flow, and after it's done, he's like, well, where are we going? I didn't go with them or do anything that night, but he just wants to talk about music. And so we were talking out, having a smoke in the car park about the band I used to be in and about what he was trying to do. And he wanted to start doing 7-inch releases and single releases with bands. And he spoke to you about that. I don't know, at that barbecue.
We talked about that.
Yeah. And so like I was sending him demos of what we were doing over text, and it was just mind blowing. I'm like, why is he texting me? I mean, he hasn't texted me in like 3 years because he's gone through a lot. And at the same time, like, you can't possibly remember everyone, but he was so open to conversation. It was quite fascinating.
Yeah. I think you kind of realize that the people you're looking at through a weird lens on media and social media, all that stuff. It's like, they're still just people. They just like, either worked really hard and got lucky or just got lucky or whatever, but like they're just people.
Yeah, we have a really cool story about Joe Walsh. I don't know if you're interested in hearing more stories.
Yeah, no, tell me. I just spoke for like 5-6 minutes. Tell me that story.
No, that's all right.
This is another Robert one.
The photographer Robert Knight. He was doing photography for the Rock Walk in Hollywood. They were inducting Vince Gill, right?
Yeah, the quick backstory is he was like Guitar Center's like sort of more official photographer for events like that. So he was at all of the Guitar Centers that have the photos along the outside walls. They don't have in Canada, but all of those photos are his photos. Sorry.
Oh my goodness.
So anyway, we were at this like induction to Vince Gill because he was like, yeah, come, it'll be fun. Like, you can meet, all these people, it'll be fun. And Joe Walsh was introducing Vince. And so afterwards we were all in Guitar Center, and I don't know how we got to talking to Joe, but I think we were all just kind of standing next to each other, and he was like, what do you do? And I said, well, we both play guitar, and we're in a band. And he's like, what guitar do you play? And I was like, or he's like, what's your favorite guitar to play? So I have my favorites. Like, he has 339 Gibson, and he was like, stay here. And he walked away and was gone for like, I don't know, 15 minutes.
Yeah, like he was doing, like, it kind of became clear he was doing his own shopping. Like, he was like, he was like pointing at stuff.
Yeah, and then he came back holding a box of Seymour Duncan antiquities, like the pickups.
Right.
And he was like, I got these for you.
Like, what?
Yeah, he's like, they'll sound better in your guitar.
He's like, they'll sound better in your guitar. Put them in your guitar. They're going to sound great. And I was like, okay. And then he's like, what do you play?
Yeah, he asked what amp I use. And I was like, I have an endorsement with Orange and this and that. And he's like, you got anything smaller? Because I told him, like, I was using like stacks and stuff. And he came back with this little Vox practice amp thing. He's like, I have this in my dressing room at every show. He's like, I set it like this. It sounds really good. And he's like, I got this for you.
He's just the nicest person.
Yeah, like we didn't know him. Like, we were just there. Like, we just happened to be there.
Yeah, and he was talking, you had walked away for some reason, but he was talking to me, just me and him, and he handed me like a pick out of his pocket. I don't know if you've ever seen, I think they're called brain picks, the ones that have like the like kind of grill on them a bit, like
Oh yeah,
with the textured on it. He handed it to me and he was like, "Do you have a pick?"
Yeah.
He goes, instead of holding it like this, hold it like this. It sounds better. You and I are the only ones that know this secret now.
Well, you just told everybody.
I was like, okay, you got it, Joe. This is so cool.
The tens and tens of viewers right now are going to leak that everywhere, guys.
Yeah.
See what you've done.
That's so fascinating. That to me, that's what I'm sort of dreaming of doing with What Was That, is like part of this situation is it's an arts academy as well. So everything I earn through subscribers monthly or through donations is split 50-50 with the What Was That Foundation. And a long story short with that is that I've reached out to friends that are professional musicians or magicians or songwriters, and I'm giving a chance to basically, I mean, people can apply for grants. Like if they are 5 years old to 105, they want to learn guitar, right? It's not changing the wheel or reinventing anything, but it's just trying to go about it my way. And my point when referring back to your story, not going off on me some more, is that I would like to get to a place where once I'm comfortable, I mean, this is okay. This is unlocking. I need to give you more context because I'm from a middle class background. I'm very, very, very fortunate that my grandparents on my mum's side enabled me to do some incredible things. Go to lots of musical theatre in London when I was growing up. That in turn is why I was so intrigued and attracted to performing and entertaining and just goofing out. I know that when my family lost everything, that surely my grandparents, I don't know for sure, but I feel like they helped us after being homeless for a while, get shelter again. They gave us their old cars when they upgraded their cars, things like that. My family gave us all their clothing and hand-me-downs and whatnot. So this is born, what was that, out of it's born out of a lust to grow for me, but also I don't care if I fail. Because I know what it is I've seen my parents work their backsides off to get shelter, to grow, my parents going back to school in their 50s and a whole career change. And so they inspire me tenfold every day. So I'm not scared. But at the same time, I went to that incredible school when I was 16 to 18 in my mum and dad and uncle's hand-me-down clothes. And like Alex Boopadoopy said earlier, I went to school with Brian May's daughter. Well, I went to a school to fix mainly on theatre, music and media, and all these kids in and around me were the kids of Sex Pistols and Queen and Iron Maiden and Sabbath and you name it. And so I was there like 16-year-old from a small town, now surrounded by all these kids driving Mini Coopers and Bentleys when they're fucking 17 years old, just so confident, like just ready to just go on stage and I am the best thing you've ever seen. And I was like, oh my God, I'm shit. I'm terrible. I can't do any of this. And that was a massive part as to the evolution of me. And why we're even talking now is in my first year being like, I don't know if I want to even audition for the musical. And then the head of theatre being like, motherfucker, I've written you a part to be in it. No one can do comedy like you can do comedy. Don't worry about the singers. I don't want you to sing. I want you to be funny and quirky and fucking weird. That's what I want you to be. And I was like, okay, I'm fucking weird. I could be weird. And in the second year, growing into that confidence of like, oh, I can do this now. And then finally making radio demos that I felt were like showcasing the confidence of the guy that can do it. Give me a chance to grow and learn. Mm-hmm. So to click into all of that aside, for me, to come back to your story and Steve, is that I would like to get to a point where I'm comfortable, I'm grounded. I have worked my backside off, achieved my dreams. Dreams don't need to be lofty. They seem lofty to us in the moment, but they don't necessarily need to be what the media and what the world tells us, which is you need to be Jennifer Lawrence big, Nicki Minaj big, Dave Grohl big. That's when you get confused and you trip and fall along the way and get sour and you don't achieve and you just shut down and don't grow because you're obsessed with something that isn't you and you're trying to be someone else. And that's a battle I have every fucking day. So we're clear when I'm tired at the end of the day and self-comparing. It's a dangerous, tired habit. But my point being, again, and in summary of clicking on from my passionate share to the Steve in getting you pedal boards or getting you, thanks for saying pickups. I had no idea it was a fucking pickup until you said that. I'd like to be in a position where I'm so grounded and comfortable that I can just nonchalantly impact joyfully someone else. And then, he'll bump into you years later and be like, see, it was the best way to use that pick. Look at this fucking record. Look at Misery and Moon Song and If We Have to Die. Look at these creations.
Yeah, nice people make the world go round, I think. Really, that's what it comes down to. Yeah. Just be nice to people.
Well, and remember that it's not easy, I guess.
Yeah, no, life is hard. But if you're nice to people, it makes it easier.
Yeah.
You've touched on when you were in Austin and you had that chance to bump up after initial cancellation and you were crying playing Far From Home. I was going to ask you what feels like 50 minutes ago. What are the 3 songs? Because the way that you emailed back and sent on Instagram the note about Sick and the way that you've spoken so far, and in that interview with Women in Indie Music and Women in Rock, rather, you allude to the fact that this is clearly a story that's been planned, right? We're going through acts of Bexley here. So what are 3 markers in this record that initiate that change in the development of the journey?
I think, well, it starts off with Misery.
What a better way to start.
I think that song for us, it's funny to me because everyone has a different favorite song, and that song for us is kind of like it was supposed to be the single, and we're like, for us, it's like the least interesting to play is the best way to put it. But the line, I think I love the Misery, kind of sets the stage for the whole record, going in and out of like the comfortability of feeling sad, that like familiar feeling, and then trying to come out of it. But I guess that song kind of sets the stage.
Isn't it? I'm Sorry is next, right?
Yeah, I'm Sorry is next.
It follows basically with an apology of
I'm Sorry is essentially my apology for being, depressed or whatever it is. I sometimes, I'm sure everyone else feels this way too. You feel bad for feeling a certain way to the people around you because it does affect the people around you. So yeah, I don't know. It goes from that to that very quickly and then jumps around a lot of emotions.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was kind of tied together semi-lyrically and definitely musically. Like if you listen to the album front to back, I think we spent a lot of time on that, trying to make it kind of intentional. And
yeah, just the different perspectives of mental illness too. Like in Sweetest Thing, one of the lyrics is, it's kind of about a toxic relationship, and one of the lyrics is you are the sweetest thing, maybe more sweeter things should be left to the unknown, because you're comfortable with what you know, and even if it is kind of like a toxic thing, I don't know.
Yeah
it's just that comfortability in what you know, and the willingness to grow or change is kind of up to you. I don't know if I'm answering your question right.
there's no particular. No, I ask a question and it inspires a share, and that's what you're doing. There's no refined way to doing it, and I think that's also what I love. Well, I don't think it's one of the biggest things I love about what I do now is that that's why I say to artists, there's no time limit. It's as much as you're comfortable. I'm not expecting you to give me a 20-second answer. That's not what I'm after here. I'm after really diving into how your flipping human specimens work and create. Yeah,
well, I think we really, the song Lullaby didn't even almost make it on the record because I was embarrassed by it. I am not comfortable saying "go fuck yourself" in a song.
That's why I thought you should do it, because I was like,
Steve kind of insisted that it be on the record.
It might not be a hit.
It was honestly, I was just angry at a certain point and had this small voice note on my phone that ended up being this entire song. But the little voice note is me being just angry and crying, singing into the phone.
Yeah, I thought it would be, and I just I've been really into weird juxtaposition the last while of I don't know, singing basically "go fuck yourself, I'm gonna kill you" over sort of a more lullaby feel.
Yeah, it's very bluesy. It's like those old blues songs.
Oh yeah,
where they're I'm gonna murder you, my wife, or whatever they say.
When you're tapping your foot.
Yeah, and then Far From Home, we wanted to end it on an uplifting, like there is, you can move forward, as corny as it sounds. Like there's a light at the end. Like for me, I just want people to know that you're not alone. And like Far From Home kind of encapsulates that feeling that I think everybody was going through, even in the last year and a half, of feeling, everybody was, whatever home is to you, whether it's an emotional thing or a physical place or people, if you're far from that feeling, it can be really hard.
Yeah, that's kind of where the music video for that came in as well, with all the like home. It's all of us as like
kids. I don't know if you saw that
yeah,
video,
I did. Yeah.
But, it starts with my Nana in Bexley Heath, like that 19.
Yeah.
I think it's like 1942. It's pre-war, and it's just footage from them that my uncle had sent over like a few months ago, and we just sort of grew from there, like over the timeline.
I remember watching that video and being a little bit confused, and it sort of planted a subconscious seed that I didn't dive into and didn't realize until you shared it an hour ago, which is that you've named yourself after Bexley in Southeast London. I was like, this looks very, I just whimsically honestly thought that you had just grabbed footage from like Adobe stock or something, and I was like, okay, Americans sprinkling in some English London stuff. Okay, this is interesting.
My Nana as a kid, I think she's 9 or 10, yeah, and it's like my great granddad and like her sister.
Yeah, it goes like from then to our childhoods, and then it's mostly our childhoods after that, and like people that we miss and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just that feeling of like in the song, like, do you ever just need a friend? And that's kind of the whole thing that gets people through mental health a lot of the times. It's just having somebody there to know you're not alone.
Yeah. It is kind of a nod to us, like to our immediate circle as well. Like it's whenever it says like, do you ever just need a friend? It's like her and her best friend, and like me and my cousin, who are like, we grew up as like brothers. But it is like, it's personal for us. Well, it's personal for us, and like most people, I guess, like you wouldn't know if you didn't know us, but like we're just trying to make something, I think, and something that means something to us.
Yeah. Well, no, thank you for sharing all that. That's above and beyond what I thought I would get. I just, because a lot of the time these conversations we're figuring each other out. You've got to feel safe in sharing. You've got to feel a connection to share. The fact that we've been talking for an hour and 40 minutes is flipping awesome. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for indulging us.
Yeah.
So you're in Los Angeles then, and so what? Are you itching to get out? Are you looking to book shows? Are you just going to wait and just let this shit sort itself out? I still think there's going to be another 12 to 18 months of the world trying to figure this stuff out.
I do as well. In a perfect world, our next goal is to get on a tour with somebody. That's really what we need to do, I think, to gain some real fans, is to play the music live, because it's difficult doing it from home. Like, what are you supposed to do?
And even locally, it's difficult because it's like a lot of venues here, you're like, you have to bring X number of people for it to be even doable. And we're like, fine, but it's a Wednesday night and we played a couple weeks ago. Like, how many people of the same people can be convinced to come do this again every time? And it's
I'll be broke, I don't care. I just want to go on the road and play shows for new faces in different cities. So I think we're just looking for that opportunity to go on the road with somebody a little bit bigger than us.
And now especially it's even weirder, because we do have friends who have been going out and touring, and some of them, like, somebody on the team gets COVID, and like even bigger bands, somebody on the team gets COVID and they have to either scrap it or cancel a bunch of shows. And it's a new sort of thing to navigate overall. It was already hard, and I think it's weirder now.
We just need someone to take a chance on us, I think. And we've been reaching out to a lot of people and trying to make it work. So eventually one of the things is going to fall into place.
If you want to take a road trip, we have a show early January in Seattle.
Okay, yeah. Think about that for sure. I mean, it depends on, they had the border closed. That's just like an hour and a half ferry from Vancouver Island. But
they stopped the ferry.
I think they've reopened the ferry since. But no, I just something that I will wake up at 3 a.m. and feel so sad that we didn't do this. But when you mentioned Fred Durst there earlier, I'm sorry, but I can't not. Every time someone says Fred Durst, I have to just be like, yeah. I just, sorry, I have to do it. I can't not just be like.
You had that on deck. You had that.
I was ready to go.
Oh, I've got the reverb ready. Yeah, it's
so good.
I'm with my dad vibes. Yeah, it's just ready to go.
One of those
That would be pretty sweet. That'd be pretty sweet. You go on a tour with it's Bexley, it's Alice in Chains, it's Fred Durst.
I mean, that'd be great.
Yeah.
For me, I think one of my favorite modern bands right now, they are, but I think my favorite modern band is Wolf Alice.
Yeah.
I don't know if you listen to their new record. It was a slow burn on. I had to really dive in and listen to it 2 or 3 times to really fully digest it. But it's one of my favorite records ever. Honestly, they just blow my mind.
Well, they did a lot of the things that I think we want to do too, which is cool. It's kind of the record's like an art piece from start to finish. And then they just did a premiere here. We went to see it. It was
yeah, all of the songs have music videos. Sorry.
No, that's it. It's they did music videos for all the songs, but it ties together as a film. It's like a weekend out essentially. But if you watch them all front to back, it's like another angle to the whole album. It's it now has a visual experience to go with it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, if I had to aim for something, I want to be at their level. Make money, tour, be able to be slightly anonymous still. They're really cool to me.
Yeah, they're pretty rad.
It's an outstanding record. I know selfishly I was hoping for a bit more gumption the first time I put it on, and then when I sat back and found the right time to be in the right headspace, it's like, oh no, that we're being forced to go on a journey here.
Yeah.
And I think they're allowed to demand that. I think after 2 Stand and Deliver records, it's time to divulge and spread wings a bit more, and they do that magnificently. I mean, it's lyrically as well. That's a fierce. The delivery doesn't necessarily always grab you by the throat, but there's a lot of very clear agendas covered with that story.
I think any disappointment you come into something like that with is because it's sort of bred from expectations. Well, this is what they've done, and they're not doing the thing I thought they'd do. So that's
how I felt about it at first. I really wanted something more punchy, and
I think it's cooler.
I think I think it's much cooler. I'm glad they didn't.
It's a show. I say the Queens of the Stone Age does this too, the reinvention and that kind of thing. If you listen to the first record and the last record, it sounds like the same band somehow, but you don't know how did you do that? How did you play 2 entirely different things, but it's still the same? I don't know. It just feels like the same group of people, even though some have shifted. But
yeah. Anyway, if it inspires me, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it'd be pretty sweet then to somehow get an England or European support tour and go on the road with Wolf Alice, Yonica, and Bexley. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, sure.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be amazing.
But I would
love to go to the UK and do a tour there. I mean, I've got family there. I've got a friend there in a band that's very cool. I don't know if you've heard Dutch Mustard.
Dutch Mustard.
Another one that would be cool to do a.
Yeah, she'd probably do a podcast with you. Yeah, it's her band, but she's just I've recently become friends with her in the last year over the internet. And I just love what she does. It's very My Bloody Valentine, Wolf Alice, that kind of more, that side of the 90s
it's
vibe.
Ethereal.
And they just put out a song, but she's re-releasing music this coming year. I love her. She's great.
Well, I just looked it up. A Song for Dreamers came out in the last few weeks. There's only Weeping Willow from 2019. It's on Spotify at least, but maybe they cleared everything and there is more.
Yeah, they're doing a whole new release. I think she got on a label and they're they've re-recorded and retracked everything.
Yeah, Weeping Willow's great too, though.
Yeah. And there's, if you go to YouTube, they have live from a studio, they did sort of music videos from a studio.
Yeah, different songs.
Yeah, so there's more there as well.
But yeah, it's cool just meeting the other smaller bands on the internet and all around the world. We could go to England and play shows with her, or
Yeah, I think it would be great.
Yeah, but yeah, we are looking for that opportunity to play in front of a larger audience. I think that's the key. That's why Austin City Limits was so important to us. It's just getting in front of a broader audience, because I think if we could get that exposure, people would like us,
Well, yeah, and other than our bass player's parents, my sister and her boyfriend, and the guy from Florida, nobody and Colin's girlfriend, nobody else in the crowd knew us. Like, there's nobody there who came to see us. So for us, it was kind of a proof of concept of like, we got that crowd walking by to stop and listen and cheer. And like,
I think we were the only like rock band there.
Yeah, at that time, yeah. Like on our day or whatever. But it was like a solidifying that like, oh, we're not doing something crazy. I think like we can show.
Yeah, we just need the audience, I think.
Yeah, and I hope people like. Not everybody's gonna like it, but it was satisfying to have some people just stop because they liked what they heard.
Yeah, and people stopped us that whole weekend asking if we were Bexley. It was really like a great experience.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's nuggets of positivity. Nuggets of positivity. I have to be honest with you. If I seem antsy, it's because after drinking 7 cups of tea,
I figured you have to go.
I'm not. That's not that kind of stream.
I'll tell you another story about my child.
Yeah, no, but I don't want to stop. But I do really have to. But I can hold for about 15 more minutes if I have to.
That's not good.
I was one of those kids that, when you've gone on like a camping trip or you've gone to your grandparents rather for the week. I don't know why I said camping. I was thinking of Beaver Cub Scouts, but that's a long time ago. That's right at the back of my mind. But I was the kid that was always like, no, I don't want to pee in the woods. No.
Yeah.
Find me some porcelain. Just so fucking ridiculous. So I just, like, and Alex watching right now, I remember when we graduated equivalent of high school, secondary school over in England, and we all got drunk that weekend at the leaving do, and all the lads are pissing off London Bridge, and I'm like, no, not pissing off a bridge. Not my kind of style, guys. Rock and roll, do what the fuck you want. I'm going to be here. I'm going to hold it all the way down the tube for an hour and a half, and then maybe not wet myself before we get home. But no, we'll be all good.
Well,
anyway.
Did you have any other like planned questions that we missed, or?
No, my planned questions were this. It's your names, it's your band name, and it's things I wrote down whilst we spoke, which was sorry.
Yeah.
And then this is Dutch mustard that you probably can't see that I just wrote down.
There it is.
Yeah.
No, I don't plan. I don't do questions.
Nice.
I just think of a starting point, and then I hope. Sometimes I get nervous in the 5-10 minutes right before I'm going to start speaking with someone. I've not got a fucking starting point. I've not got a starting point, and that was what was so great about Brett being like, "I know these fucking people." I'm like, "Oh, cool. That's a wonderful universal step into conversation." So, no, and actually, Amanda, usually I finish off by just throwing recommendations backwards and forwards. Like when I think of, if we're talking about putting together a bill, like if I was able to put on a show, one thing I'd love to do in 10, 15 years from now is start doing a show every year downtown in Inner Harbour in Victoria where no one pays. It's just like me bringing the most exciting modern rock bands and putting them in the harbour and saying, play a fucking rock and roll show. That's what I would love one day you to be on a bill. So when I think of, if I'm diving into that mindset, then I mean, I love the fact that you said Yonica, Wolf Alice. Yes, Wolf Alice are a bit more established than the Yonica. If I'm looking at smaller bands that I think people need to know about, including you, the Velveteers. Are you familiar with the Velveteers?
I've seen their name floating around, yeah.
Velveteers, recorded with Dan Auerbach, Black Keys, Easy Eye Sound, very throwback rock vibe. 2 drummers and incredible 3-piece. They've been making music together since they were 14. They shared the most adorable post yesterday of them playing covers, much like you're referring to AC/DC in those 60 cover shows way back when you were a kid, Steve. It's fascinating to see that footage and the grainy old VHS that Mum recorded or something like amazing that was captured. Velveteers are a really cool band. If we're focusing though on that grunge element, do you know Fan Club from Ireland?
No.
Fan Club, and I'll email you this after the chat, so don't worry about right because I can't read my writing after I've written anything, so I'll email you. Fan Club, released in 2019, a clinical record that for me is timeless. It's absolutely brilliant, grunge inspired, massive Nirvana fans growing up, but Fan Club are a must listen to, I think, for Bexley. I think that would be a really cool connection maybe one day. Calva Louise.
Have you heard of Mets?
Mets are incredible.
Yeah.
That would be a really refreshing show, actually.
Yeah.
That would be really intriguing. Yeah, and then try and get Greg from Dillinger Escape Plan to come and do his solo stuff. That would be a fucking bonkers 1, 2, 3.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I didn't even think of putting Mets with you like that.
They're on Sub Pop.
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah.
There's a band out of Seattle that Amanda showed me when we first met. So the drummer for this band covered ACL with us, and he's an amazing drummer. I was super stoked when he could do it.
Yeah, Tosh couldn't play with us, so my friend Will filled
Andrews,
in.
Yeah. But okay, so they disbanded and rebanded, but they had 2 records under the name
The Mothership, which I highly recommend that you listen to. They're on Spotify.
But just based off of the way you say you listen to music, and just hearing what you had to say about our music, even like you're clearly in it, and like you're like listening to the nuance. Their second album,
The Bright Side of Dim,
that is a like front to back an experience, and
it's so inspiring for us. Like they literally are a band from Seattle that when I was playing around town, they were as well, but they were like the band that everyone wanted to go see.
They're the cool band.
Like they were the coolest local band, in my opinion.
Yeah, they've rebanded now as 10 Miles Wide. So they have a record out under that name as well, with a slightly different cast, but this is one of the same singers and same drummer. But yeah, that would be sort of.
I think you'd love it.
Yeah,
okay,
you'd
sweet.
really enjoy that.
Okay, I'm gonna do. I got to interrupt. I don't want us to stop. Are you good for another 15 minutes or so?
Sure. Yeah.
Are you okay with awkwardly sitting here live on Twitch whilst I run upstairs and piss quickly?
Sure.
I'm gonna also piss.
I'll just sit here as well.
Amanda, please. I know that you can't modify. Steve just said in chat, quote, John has to pee and he's talking about doing a show next to a splashing cold ocean. Nice. Thank you, Steve. There's Steve in here and there's Trucker Steve in chat. Okay, we're gonna, Amanda, you hold the fort. Theo the cat is somewhere in the living room around me as well.
Well, don't take too long, you guys. I get nervous.
Be right back. Be right back.
All right.
Wait, the problem is our bathroom is too close to the.
All right, go ahead. Shut the door. Well, I guess I can tell an anecdote about my life. We're working on new music. We're working on a new, record, hopefully. Our record came out, our debut record came out a month ago. Let me see. That's pretty much all I got. I don't know how many people are watching, but my name's Amanda, 25. This is going to be on the internet forever. So, yeah. Oh, you're back.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
That was fast. See, still.
Yeah, the Boopadoopy. Alex just said, love it. Amanda is hilarious. It won't be on the internet forever. Twitch deletes vids after a while. What did you fucking get up to when I was gone?
I said, hi, my name's Amanda. I'm 25, and
I want to be America's Next Top Model.
This is the internet forever, so.
No, I there was a random radio skit that Jeremy Baker, who used to be the afternoon show host, did a few years back. He read a report on how the average male, sorry, Mum, if you're listening, the average man will spend 24 to 38 seconds urinating.
Not Steve.
And so that's what they spent the next week like timing. And for me, I mean, after 7 cups, that felt like a maybe 40-seconder. But
wow.
But who knows? Who knows?
I have the bladder of the whatever has a small bladder, and
Eloquently put.
So I gotta go all the time. That's why I purposefully didn't drink anything.
I can't not drink tea. It's all part of the experience. Just kick back and chat. But okay, 10 miles wide, and jumping back into musical discovery. So I think I said Velveteers, Fan Club. You already know Yonica.
Another backwards roundabout story to Wolf Alice and us too, that for another band, is there's a guy, his tag on Instagram is visual disco.
Oh yeah.
And Amanda saw like artwork he did, is like he does, like he'll like pick a band or a song or something and he'll make kind of like, I guess you call it like fan art or inspired by.
They look like show posters, like really cool, like, yes. Or he'll take a single and like incorporate lyrics into this really cool like poster kind of thing.
His stuff is rad. So
what was it again? The handle,
Visual
sorry?
Disco.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Karen. Sorry.
Amanda, yeah, I saw that he had something done for Wolf Alice, and Wolf Alice used it on their merch. It was for their song "Smile," and it's like a really cool, like colored visual thing of them. Basically, I messaged him and I was like, "Hey, we're putting out an album with a bunch of singles. I'd love for you to listen to the record and create something for us. If like, you know, what would you charge? Like that kind of thing." And like he agreed to do it, and he listened to the whole record, and he made us this like really cool visual.
It ended up being the lyric video for the song "I'm Sorry" as well. Like the artwork in that, all I did is I like tore it apart and animated it. But yeah, but he's in a band
called Rome's, and they're really cool.
Oh, I've been chill the fuck out. I've been listening to a lot the last little while. Yeah.
So we've been back.
So they're
and forth
two brothers. And yeah, we've been back and forth with them. So it's just the internet connecting bands. But
yeah, another Canadian band too. And that's the thing too. Like I lived there in Toronto for like many years, and then I moved here, and now I'm meeting people up there and hearing about new bands that I had never like. It's just weird the way it's all been tying together.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Broken Love out of Toronto?
No.
Write it down too.
No, I'm going to email you all this. Don't worry. So what I'll do is, you know, I'll remember Broken Love out of Toronto. I mean, one of the most exciting modern rock bands in the country for me. Soft Cult out of Ontario, the twin sisters, the Arnhorns I spoke to a few weeks ago. Shoegaze meets grunge.
Cool.
Actually, if you were to go through Song of the Week, I mean, you're the sixth Song of the Week with Sick. Sick is six. Okay, so I've just had to check for myself the clarity and diction there. But Preston Mecco, an incredible band. Nova Twins, Devolver Tears, Psychedelic Porn Crumpets, Soft Cult, and You. Those are the bands I've had of Band of the Week so far. But yeah, I would. That's so interesting. It's the world is, and this goes back to what you were saying, Amanda. I feel like an hour and 20 minutes ago, in saying just Instagram. Because with my partner Jody, I think that was you got back from work. That's you, right? I think Jody just got back. That is how we have made, like when I quit commercial radio, I was like, I want to get rid of everything. I want Facebook gone. I want all this crap gone. And Jody was like, don't get rid of Instagram, because it's a great connector. And it has been the number one way in which, like our conversation right now, is conversation started on Instagram.
Right. It's a virtual business card, essentially.
Yeah.
I have no problem like reaching out to people. Like I've reached out to people that I thought would never get back to me, and they do. So it's really cool. Yeah.
The only bummer is when you send something like so I think what I did to you is cheekily what I do to anyone that reshares my daily playlist or the song of the week, or whatever it might be that you've been tagged in, and I say thanks for noticing this independent radio station, and then see what the next step is, and if it's okay, kind of conversational, then I'll be like, hey, would you like to talk sometime? And in the last few days, because I tag after every show, and then so every day there's like 2 or 3 bands I might speak with just fleetingly, and it's always a bummer when you get to that step and you're like, oh, I'm going to share like a paragraph now, not just a sentence, and then you get the scene and no reply, and you're like, oh no. But then you realize this person has 200,000 or 10,000, or you know, like Alex who's watching this used to sass me when I first started in the Zone and be like, oh my God, you just post on Facebook, I'm taking a shit and 1,000 people like it. And those were the days, right, Alex? You know, but that's the thing. Then I've got to remind myself, well, hang on a second. I'm one of thousands of people that are just double hearting or a smile. And sometimes you just want to go through it and just get through it. Like I know that I just want to organize and constantly keep things organized in messages. Sometimes you just go through and you miss that one, or you don't reply or whatever. And
yeah, it's hard. You got to take care of yourself too. Like Instagram is you know, it's as great as it is, it's also very like hard on the mind, I think. So you just gotta take care of yourself as well.
Yeah, it's not real.
Yeah. We've made it real.
It is and it isn't. Yeah. It's fascinating. It's like I've really jumped into, I was trying not to turn the conversation to Discord, but I've been just using Discord as a community building situation for the last year. And I much prefer it. I think a lot of people initially are daunted by Discord because it's just a constant stream of conversation. But the joke is that you get the same thing everywhere else you go. It's just positioned differently. It's designed differently. It looks different. And so what I like about it is that I can have all particular energies and channels of what we dive into. Here's music, here's mental health, here's charity, here's beautiful BC, here's beautiful world, whatever it might be. And then you can prepare the energy of which you're diving into, instead of being on Facebook where I felt like bam, bam, bam. Oh my God. Left, right, upper hook. Like, you just never know what's coming at you.
It's true.
Yeah. I've kind of faded off of the social thing. I shouldn't, but it's just been like, well, let's funnel into the Bexley thing as much as possible because that's what we're working on. But for me too, I'm like, it's just
content is hard. It's like
the word content is
coming up with whatever content is every single day. It's monotonous after a while.
We're like green screen in the apartment doing a photo shoot and then trying to
it's funny because I really don't like feeling narcissistic at all, but the internet forces you to be.
Yeah.
So it's the weird mind trick.
We want to just make some music and play the music, but it's not as easy as that anymore, or as well. I guess it was never easy, but it's not as simple as that anymore.
Yeah, I'm still wrestling with that a little bit. Like you see all these people saying, why aren't you making 3 TikToks a day? Why aren't you posting 3 pictures a day? 9 a.m., 1 p.m., 9 p.m. Why aren't you doing that? And for me, what you're alluding to and what you already know is it takes away from what the product is that you're trying to make, which is just trying to have fun and rock and roll. For me, I'm just trying to find, like when you were sort of alluding to earlier, Steve, with my practice of going about how do I have all these blogs I follow from around the world. In your case, for example, if you were playing with an Alice in Chains, I'd be like, oh, who's that? Well, who else have you played with? And then I go down a rabbit hole of, well, who did you play with 5 years ago? Where's that band now? What have they changed to? Just any avenue of trying to find out, and then asking if you get the chance to speak with people like yourselves. Okay, well, tell me some bands. Well, I've got my little list here and I'll email you a list as well. And then it's like, well, if I had to sit down and spend 4 hours trying to make one flipping picture, what is that serving? Is that's serving someone that might not even ever see it? And then you're getting annoyed at yourself for having spent the time and not spending time on what you want, what you love doing, and it's a fickle double-edged sword.
Yeah. You may have already said, and I might not remember it. How did you find us?
Just from that, just deep diving into blogs. And like I was shouting out earlier, the conversation that you did with Linda Garnett, I was looking through her blog and I was like, who's this? And the first thing I came across was Desert Song. And I was like, who's this? And here we are.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, the social media thing is daunting I think at all levels. Like our bass player, his name's Colin. He has a project of his own where he does and plays everything. He goes by Wallace.
He's incredible.
Yeah, incredibly talented human. He doesn't. I don't know that he has anything new out other than maybe on SoundCloud at the moment. He's another one who's sort of like pulled everything and is doing a re-release sort of fresh.
He goes by Wallace.
Yeah, so he's one that's like, it's funny, we hound him all the time because like he was either no social media or he's worried about what he's going to post on social media, to the point of like we're like, no, but just make the music and have the music ready because it's amazing. The rest you'll figure it out. Like it's the same. We're just like stumbling through it, trying to figure out what's going to work. But it's become such an element of this business, which is flawed to begin with, that I think getting back to like what you're doing is kind of the way to go about it. Honestly, this is like the most modern version of the old school. Like, have you heard this band? Have you seen it? Like, just like, I heard this record, like I got to show my friends. Like, it's not really that world anymore, but it sounds like the way you're doing it is more investigative and like curious. And that's kind of what music was. And what, I don't know, I think that's the exciting part, is like just the discovery.
running down to your local newspaper stop and getting the latest magazine because you want to learn about insert artist here that has their exclusive today. I mean, there's so much data everywhere that's awesome, but at the same time as well, it's filtering through to find the golden nugget. And that's why I said to you earlier, look, don't worry about arrogance or don't worry about seemingly, pumping your own tires, because what I've come to terms with and that I'm still working on is that it's okay to be proud of what you can offer the world. It's okay to be proud of the fact that I know what I do really fucking well is just talk. I could talk a lot, but also just converse, get to know people. And that's why, for me, after 10 years of trying to find the 10-second soundbite, the 30-second question, you've only got 10 minutes. I don't care if I hang out and talk to someone for 3 hours and don't tick that box, because it's not a concern to me anymore. It's about a deeper connection than that. And a deeper lust of wanting to learn more about what galvanizes me. And that's why, for me, I have a TikTok account. What was that radio? The only video is me when I was building the studio up in my partner's closet and nearly falling over onto a hammer because I'm not very DIY. I'm not going to jump on there and feel I've got to make 3 things a day, or I'm not going to, in this moment, I haven't got time. I'm not going to take a clip of this interview and use it as a tool to maybe help propel it. I'm going to try and shrewdly find channels of connection that I can just advertise digitally online. Hey, are you looking for modern rock discovery? What was that? And I'd rather it be a place that when people fall into it, they know exactly what they're going to get. They know like if you're a subscriber to me, we have a Zoom every month and any question that is asked is answered. There's no secrecy. So if people want to know how much money I've earned, or where is this going, or what does it cost to actually run a radio station? There's so much unknown. Like when I left, and I'm going off on a passionate share again, but when I left, my first foray into Reddit was to read this crazy fucking rundown on me. And I was like, oh shit. These people have no idea what they're talking about. If they just called me, then we could talk about it. Like, oh, he'll go bankrupt in 2 months. It costs so much money. No, I mean, to run an online radio station, I have a SoCan music license. It's $150 for 18 months. And once the station makes over $3,000 a month, which it's nowhere near doing, then I give a 6 to 8% cut per month. And if the more you earn, the more bigger cut you give for royalties. I pay radio.co just short of $1,000 a year to be able to broadcast using the gold package, which gives me 50 gigabytes of data, gives me up to 20,000 concurrent listeners, which I'm nowhere near in this moment. So really, when it's all said and done, because I don't want to tell you the whole fucking spiel and spend 15 minutes on it, it only costs about $2,000 a year to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm just relying on the growth that's led me to this point, and the growth that I've learned aggressively through the last 13 months to keep building it. I'm not expecting there to be millions, or I would like to be at a livable wage, yes, but I'm also cognizant of the fact that it's not going to. I don't know. It's like I feel like almost like the band. I'm realizing now, maybe because I didn't get that chance to go around the world with the band and be a broke player on the road after all these years of speaking with people that have inspired me. Maybe this is my subconscious saying, like, you didn't get that risk. Maybe it's time to take that risk. I don't know. That just dawned on me just now. But
revelations.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to talk about everything.
Yeah.
Get out of your own head and into somebody else's opinion.
Yeah. I do appreciate you having us too. Like it's refreshing to talk to people who are like, let's just talk about it. So yeah.
Yeah, really I was just saying to Steve, I wish people would ask us questions about the record, because we spend so much time on the intricacies of it. I love talking about it. And when people care, it's like, yeah, let me tell you about this really cool pedal we used on this one song. Or this weird vocal trick or whatever.
Because we're just in our own bubble. So we're like, we like our bubble. It's fun to talk about. I don't know. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, I just, it's just, you just got to embrace the awkward, no one knows. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm going to ask, let alone then when I get passionate, I know that I fucking just go off on one, and then you're like, oh shit, it's my turn to speak. Fuck, how do I respond to I get that, but that's the joy of the conversation, Yeah. So yeah, I really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it. And I think we'll cap it there because it's 2 hours of awesomeness.
All right. Sounds good.
2 hours of awesomeness. and I know that we're going to speak again at some point in the future, and so let's not deep dive too much so that I can find out about Pedal on Track 3 in chat 2, you know.
Sounds good.
But yeah,
well,
no.
Thanks for having fun.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Amanda and Steve, thank you so much for your time. Say hello to Tosh, and yeah, he's a clinical drummer, and I just am so. It's just so wonderful to meet you both. I really appreciate your time, and I will email you all the next steps for songs. Nothing. I know that you've heard from chat when we were both peeing that yes, Twitch keeps this video for a few weeks and it goes, but it will live on as part of the podcast and on YouTube. But nothing goes live until you've seen how that looks and you've verified it's okay to represent you as much as it does me. So that's my process.
Oh,
so, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're like 3-4 weeks away from this actually being out there for keeps, other than in this moment. Just so that makes sense.
Yeah, we'll let you know if we're ever up in Victoria, right? You're Victoria? Yeah.
Two of my best friends from school. Actually, one of them is my old bass player, lived in Victoria. So I've been trying to get up there for forever now. But
sweet. It would be great to get you in Lucky Bar.
Yeah,
we love that.
Lucky Bar, you could probably squeeze 140 in, but I mean, it's for me, yeah, you could come and play a lot of the bigger venues, but that is just brick to brick. It's where the rock bands come and throw down. I mean, Logan's was a very famous punk rock venue that had to close due to the pandemic and just no money. But Lucky has managed to keep going, and that is a spot that I would love to see you in. Cognizant of the ferry cost, you know, if you're spending all your money on merch when you're playing in Austin earlier in the chat, but you know, you've got a budget for that ferry. That's why sometimes people just go straight to Vancouver, but we'll be here, and I'll do my best to fucking make sure the room's full.
Cool. Appreciate it.
That would be awesome. Yeah, we love that.
Sweet. Well, have a great rest of your day. Before we just have an awkward 10-minute goodbye where we all don't really want to stop, but we should get lunch.
Yes. I'm hungry. Let's end this.
All right, fabulous. Thank you both so much. I'll email you in a few hours once I've regrounded after the dizzying heights of just feeling fucking sweet after a great connection. So thank you again 100 times over, knowing that it doesn't lose strength with every time I repeat it. And have a great rest of your day.
You too. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
You made it. Did you watch that the whole way through, or did you skip to the end? You made it. Oh. Appreciate your time. Whatever you're doing the rest of your day, and as always, please look after yourself. And hope there's some fun and smiles involved in the rest of your day too, because we've got to cherish that positive. For now. Cheerio. How many times am I going to do this strange nod at you? Cheerio. Fade it out. Dip to black, for goodness sake.